Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report. It's Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, and we are live. Even though the Las Vegas Raiders don't have the opportunity to make the playoffs this year, which I know it's 2024, and it's a heartbreaking loss up against Indianapolis 23-20, but what does the nation do? We have to keep on moving forward, and we're going to make sure that you guys get videos 366 days this year. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on because win, lose, or tie, we're going to go live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific during 2024. So coming up here live on today's show, we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh a little bit because last week I said that there's no chance that it's going to happen. Well, guess what? The rumors are starting to heat up a little bit again, and we have something to talk about. We're also going to look at some players that the Raiders could potentially get at 11. How much is it going to cost for the Silver and Black to potentially trade up to 3, 2, 1? And then we're also going to end up looking at Russell Wilson. Does it make sense? Does it not? My question, though, to the nation is who's a better head coach for the Silver and Black? This is not a question in regards to who is the better head coach. It's like that's not the question. I don't need the best overall head coach. I need the best overall head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders because maybe Harbaugh would be better somewhere else. Maybe Antonio Pierce would be better somewhere else. All I care about is the Las Vegas Raiders in 2024, and one of these guys might be the next head coach. So if you think it's AP, type AP. If you think it's Harbaugh, give me a JH. We're going to give some shout-outs here on the show, and as always, if anybody wants to get those questions, comments featured, hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Jeremy, I don't know what's going on over here. I mean, we were a few seconds late. Jeremy was filling up a water bottle. I'm wondering if Fireball or something's in there. Glug, 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 choke, choke, choke. AP or JH, let me know down below. I see Javier is going to go AP. Abel Beloso, what's up, my brother? Says Jim Harbaugh. Brian Lance, AP. King Shab. Always love the countdown, man.
Sorry.
You all right?
Yeah, I must have been smoking on that Chiefs pack.
On that Chiefs pack still. I mean, I might ride the entire 2024 on that Chiefs win high. I really did, man. What up, Ronald? What up, Lem? AP, Juan, Sin, Urza, Scheffler. Shout out to the Silver and Black Hills. Pedro Mora, Ricky Harper, AP. I mean, I would say majority of the votes are coming in right now. Probably 85% in favor of the interim head coach, Antonio Pierce.
I've seen mostly APs. I mean,
AP all day.
AP all day.
Silk made it. Hector Castillo, 07 Hog Dog. Patrick Jimenez, what's up? Raiders Steen. King Higgins, though, he's going to roll with Jim Harbaugh. Coming up here on today's show, I'm going to give you the latest around Harbaugh. We're going to get into why it has changed now, and there was one thing in particular that, again, smoke, fire, you guys know how I think. One thing happened over the weekend that there's a reason why a lot of smoke is starting to come back around the possibility of Harbaugh potentially leaving the Michigan Wolverines and potentially joining the Silver and Black. I got a few more questions for you guys here in just a second, but I wouldn't be able to do today's show if it wasn't for
Prize Picks!
And if anybody wants to get started with Prize Picks in the year 2024, guess what? We're still hooking up here, the nation, because it's daily fantasy sports made easy, and all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS. That link is going to be available to you all down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. And the reason why I like it is because Prize Picks is super simple to play. I make my picks, submit my entry in less than 60 seconds, quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types will make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And now, one of the things that I love that Prize Picks is doing is I like trends, right? Like, if somebody's hopping on a trend, I'm like, well, at least let me find out why it's a trend, and then we'll go from there. So one of the new things that Prize Picks has when you're figuring out what picks you're going to do, they actually have a selection now that's like popular. So you can see some of the most popular picks. So this week I said, you know what? I'm going to make 3 picks from some of the most popular ones. Baker Mayfield is the most used player on Prize Picks for NFL this week so far.
He's like a doorknob. Everybody's had their turn with Baker Mayfield on Prize Picks this year.
I mean, you're going up against Carolina in a game that doesn't mean anything for the Panthers, means everything for Tampa Bay. Give me the more on Baker. C.J. Stroud, the Stroud boys. Give me the less on the passing yards there against Indy. And then C.D. Lamb going up against the worst defense maybe in the NFL. Not even maybe. I think they're the worst defense in the NFL. And the Washington Commanders, and anytime Dallas is at home, I mean, it's you probably should go with the more. So, again, if anybody wants to go with my picks, there they are. If you want to use NBA, college football, they're going to be coming up. Anything that's in season, Prize Picks has it all for you. Heck, there are sports that I didn't even know were sports. Yesterday, Jeremy, we got spoiled for college football. I mean, two of the best games that I have seen in quite some time. Michigan gets the dub over Alabama. Washington gets the dub over Texas. And I think there's a reason why I haven't seen Coop or maybe McCullough all day. But now I got to know from everybody in the chat, Washington or Michigan? And who's going to win the Natty?
By the way, they'll also have a ton of stat projections for you on this game over at Prize Picks if you want to get started with that.
Correct.
Who you got in this one? Both amazing games.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's still going to be a part of me always, like, if Georgia were to go up against any four of those teams, I would imagine that Vegas probably puts them as the favorite. However, I don't want to hear any bitching and moaning from anybody because we got two phenomenal football games. Washington, they made it interesting, but they were the superior team the entire night. And the Michigan-Alabama game was pretty even, and to me, Michigan was able to do the most at the end of the game, come up clutch, and find a way to get a dub. If you can make more adjustments than Nick Saban in the second half, especially outcoach him in the fourth quarter and overtime, you deserve it. You deserve to get in. I see a lot of W's here in the chat from Cloud. Cloud, did you get a new picture? It looks like it. W from Cloud, Money Peter's going to go Mission. B. Ray, Washington. Chugs and I will give our answers on who we got in this game because I do think it is a must watch football game for the Silver and Black. I really do. Luis Rodriguez says, first super chat of the year. Yes. Luis Rodriguez, congratulations. You are the first super chat of the Raiders Report of 2024.
Wow.
You know what, though? I actually did not plan on doing this, but F it. It is 2024 after all. The first person that bangs today, I know I don't usually drink on Tuesdays, but it's 2024. Let's get a little bit rowdy today, Chugs. The first person that bangs today here on the Raiders Report, beer bong. And depending on how the show goes, that might be my only one because we'll see. I don't know. I'm in a good mood today. I was really, don't get me wrong, once the game ended on Sunday, I was devastated. Went home, had a nice New Year, got to spend some time with the Alex's family, had a really great day yesterday, watched a lot of college football, and I walked into work today, and I feel like a brand new man. So if you guys want to get a little bit rowdy, let's get it going. Rebel, beat the Broncos for bragging rights, F losing. I hear you on the idea of F the Broncos all day, every day. I don't like losing either. I will talk about if you want Antonio Pierce to be the head coach, I do think that a win against the Broncos might need to happen. I think a lot of people assumed that once the Chiefs lost to the Raiders on Christmas that it was going to be AP's job to lose, but then Mark Davis talks to Antonio Pierce after the Colts game, talked to a few people close to that situation, and conversation went well, but also if you're Mark, can you hire somebody that's 4-5 when you moved on from Versace, who was 7-5? It'll be interesting to see. But then also quarterbacks. And we're going to talk a lot about quarterbacks. And if you haven't already answered the live poll, if the Raiders quarterbacks have to be one of these four players, so Aiden O'Connell, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or Michael Penix Jr., who would you pick? Because if you're like, if you're in the camp that you want Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, or Drake Maye, you're probably better off if the Raiders lose against the Broncos. If you're like, no, I'm okay trading for a Justin Fields or signing a Russell Wilson or maybe trying to get a Michael Penix Jr. or a Bo Nix in round 2, well, then the Broncos game doesn't really matter all that much. So it depends, I think, what you want the Raiders to do at QB is kind of how you should decide whether or not you want the Raiders to win, lose, or maybe tie against the Broncos. Rebel, I hear you, though. Let's go to Robert Lindsay. big Penix energy for Raider Nation. I mean, you can't deny the fact that Penix was phenomenal. All right, I mean, he was able to make all the throws. I mean, that one throw that he made for a touchdown in the end zone between those two safeties. I mean, I knew that he was accurate, but the arm strength that Penix was able to show there on some routes, I mean, deep balls, intermediate routes. I mean, the thing that I'm probably the most impressed with in the game up against Texas was Penix's ability to move inside the pocket with his feet, always keep his eyes down the field. And, I mean, their wide receivers are unbelievably talented. Well, Michael Penix, man, he went out there and he balled out. Let's go to Tasty Midget. If AP is coach, AOC is his quarterback, Harbaugh wants JJ. I mean, here's the thing. I don't agree with any of this. If AP is the coach, AOC is only the quarterback this season because the Raiders can't go in any other direction. And then Harbaugh wants JJ. You don't know that. Like, to me, if you legitimately value Jim Harbaugh's opinion as head coach, and if Harbaugh stepped up there to that podium and said, we're going to take J.J. McCarthy to be our quarterback here for the Silver and Black, I would say hiring Jim Harbaugh is the wrong guy. Like, I think McCarthy is one of these dudes that proves to be a good college quarterback. And he is. He is a good college quarterback. I believe that he is the most winningest, like not a national champion, but like wins, losses of all time, McCarthy. Like, it's some, dude, I don't know. It's up, like, they have like the most winningest program in the last 2 years. Nah, I heard something on TV. I already forget it.
I was going to say, there's probably an Alabama quarterback that, like, McElroy or somebody that won more games. There has to be.
I say that too. There's got to be, right? But who's the better quarterback, McCarthy or Michael Penix Jr.? We're going to talk about the Natty a little bit today, but we're also going to focus on these two QBs because of the realm of where the Raiders are at, picking number 11, how much it's going to cost to get up to 1, 2, 3 if you want one of those top dudes. So maybe you go this direction. Now, I see somebody down in the comments saying, anonymous, Bo Nix, best college quarterback. Like, I know some people think that. Bo might be, he is a good college quarterback, but I'm not looking for a good college quarterback. I'm looking for a great NFL quarterback. And to me, I have Bo Nix ranked lower than Michael Penix Jr. I do have him ranked above J.J. McCarthy. I would vote MP. But just because I vote MP, that's not exactly always what y'all have to say. Skaroke says Bo. Again, let's answer the question on screen. PJ Penix, Abraham Penix, Sienna. I think most of the people here watch right now are going to go MP easy from Nico Last. Speaking of the devil, what up, Nico? I'll tell you what. Penix was extremely impressive getting it deep yesterday. Giggity. I
think you were saying Penix was extremely impressive getting it really deep yesterday.
Yep.
Penix was so deep yesterday, Texas had no answer.
Carving him up, man. Sometimes they call him the Longhorn. My worry with Harbaugh is that he might want JJ. Guy is coming, comparing him to Brady. JD is low-key ass game manager to a T. He is a game manager, right? But the thing that you would want to hope for from McCarthy is being a game manager in the NFL is okay. Like, I actually think it's an okay thing. If you're an NFL team that you believe that you are a quarterback away from being able to compete at a Super Bowl, which, I think the Raiders' defense has got to be up there as a Super Bowl caliber defense right now, which is a mind-boggling thing to say. On top of that, you're going to have a lot of pieces around him. Yeah, you're going to have to find a new running back because I just don't envision Josh Jacobs coming back, but I don't understand how anybody can compare J.J. McCarthy to Tom Brady. They are not even kind of close to the same quarterback prospects. Like, even coming out of college, not even. The only thing similar is what college they played at, which is Michigan. Now, at the very end of today's show, we will be doing a 50-50 raffle. So, as always, if you guys want to get in, chance to win a little bit of money, $10 Venmo at Mitchell Renz 365, and at the very end, hopefully he's going to put somebody's going to put some extra money in their pocket at Mitchell Renz 365. You can scan that QR code.
First duck race of the new year.
First duck race of the new year, dude. It's kind of crazy that it's 2024, and I always feel like a kid because right in the beginning of the year, like when we make our docs and all that stuff for the show, it reminds me when I went back to like school, and the very first day you're like, you write your name, then you write on date, and it's so weird right in 2024. Today was weird right in 2024.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was definitely weird. All right, if you had to pick a quarterback for the Raiders next season.
From one quarterback discussion to another.
Let's go to it.
AOC
or Russ.
Or Danger Russ.
Yikes. What's kind of crazy is I am seeing a lot of AOCs. Abel says Russ.
I'm seeing a good amount of Russes, though. I think this is more 50-50.
This is pretty 50-50. I mean, when you look at the live poll, there is 11% for Russ, 8% for Aiden. Now it's 39% for Fields, 42% for Michael Penix Jr. But right now, I mean, this one is it's pretty split. Can you give a few shout-outs here? Yeah, I see Nico, Trace, and Lab in the duck race.
I see Steel Cage, We Out Here Entertainment, Ron, 07 Hog Dog. I see
who?
07 Hog Dog. That's Angel Batista Perez, Big Heck, says Russ for free. Sienna, she's been a real one the past couple of weeks. She's been on all of our live shows. Juan Hernandez, Justin Abgen, newest member of Mount Raidamore. Silk made it. Yes, he did. Robert Jansen, Nick, Ron Raspberry. He's without the P.
He's without the P.
Without the P. Anthony Kotab. We got Pigs 76. King Sanchez, Raider Savvy 420, Abel Beloso, Chris Norris,
I like
D'Angelo Fortenberry. Let's see, King Zay, Randy.
So we got right now 750 people tuned in to the Raiders Report. If you guys haven't already, take a second. Don't make Queen Sarah Auto hunt you down. Hit that like button. It does help us out a lot. Let's go to Robert Lindsay, who I'm just convinced is if Chugs, Derek Carr, and I made a baby, do you think Penix in the second round, people talking top 10? I mean, I will say this. The way that Penix played up against Texas, and if he has another really solid game, up against the Michigan Wolverines, I know this, that the draft stock's going to climb and climb. I'm not touching Michael Penix in the top 20. Second round, though, I'd be interested. And you know what, Jeremy? The first one of 2024. This one's rolling in from Michael Bang! The first bang of 2024. Are you all right?
Oh, dude.
I don't know. You're scaring me.
I got the New Year's flu.
Yeah, you got something going on over there. Just tuned in. Who do you think the Raiders' next QB1 shoulder be? I think the shoulder should be... again, we're going to talk a lot about this today, Michael. If you want to trade and get one of the top three, it's Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, or Jayden Daniels. If you don't want to give up a bunch of draft capital, then I think you look at a guy maybe like a Justin Fields. Maybe you look into signing a quarterback like Russell Wilson. Or if you're hoping that, you can find a good QB in round 2, I think you're crossing your fingers that Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix fall to 2. Here's the thing, though. I really wouldn't want either of those guys to be the Raiders quarterback. For me, it's between 4 names, to be honest. Just to be frank, it's between 4 names for me of who I want the quarterback to be for the Las Vegas Raiders. Flacco's not in that list. Flacco is not in that list. I hate to break it to you. Chugs, could you also get me a beer bong? Oh, is that what you're doing? All right. I don't know. He left. He's going to get me a beer bong. The first one of 2024, courtesy of no last name, Michael. Michael, I feel like you got to get a picture. You got to get a picture, and you got to give me more than just Michael. You know what I mean? Give me something else. Michael could be anybody. Could even be a boat. We got 830 people here tuned in right now. Michael's trying to get turned up. Michael's trying to get us turned up today. And again, I never drink on Tuesdays. I really try not to. But it's 2024. Let's do the first one of the year. Let's get it. What up, Big Heck? What up, Martin Paint Doctor? Raiders HQ here in the building. Nick, John Friday, Chris Puth. What up, what up? Amos, Sienna. Turn on a Tuesday. Love it. Hey, got the club going up. Oh, and we got a little death row. That's ice cold. No, it's fine. No pain, no gain. I'm pretty sure this is 34 degrees. 33 degrees. Oh, you put it in the freezer? It feels like it. I feel like I'm holding Frosty's dick. This is outrageous. All right, shout out to Michael. If you want a shout out here on the Raiders Report, spam Michael right now. And as always, if you want to get those questions, comments here on the show, use hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. And through the majority of today's live show, we'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. And we're going to keep it going here. So, Chugs, if you give a few shout-outs here to everyone spamming Michael, we got to get Michael to get a last name and a pick. Michael, that's your homework assignment.
Of course.
That's your homework assignment. You ready? What is this? Hey, Mitch, what's the main things that make you not want, you're saying Justin Fields? I mean, I've already done a few videos on it, but you can go check it out. All right, I see Mask 80, Davey, Raiders Sancho, Anonymous, Juan Hernandez, Buzz-O-Matic. Also, I forgot to tell you, you are in Buzz. Right now, it's Luis, Buzz-O-Matic, Nico Laz, Chugs. Give us a few shout-outs here. I'm going to take back this beer bong here real quick. Ready? Yeah? Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Here we go. We got Nada. We got Buzz-O-Matic, Kies, Cloud, Tadashi, Silk Madic, Javier. Oh, boy. What up, Ricardo? What up, Raider? Xavi, Indian, Luda, Gerardo, Robert Stewart, Cloud, all here in the chat. Let's go to some more super chats, and then let's get into the very first segment coming up here on today's live show. Oh, boy. I'm not going to lie to you. That's, I'm actually proud of myself that my eyes aren't watering how cold that freaking is. John Rodriguez, we can easily get Penix an 8, 11, or 14, depending where we land. We can get the quarterback from Tennessee. If you're talking about Milton, here's the thing. The only 3 quarterbacks that I would actually take in round 1 are Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye. The unfortunate part is I think 3 of those QBs end up going in the top 4. So it's like if you want one of those dudes, that's who you can go out and get. Yeah, the Raiders probably could get Michael Penix Jr. at 11. I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. Dude's got 2 ACLs, undersized QB. His injury history scares the hell out of me. I'm not really going to say he's going to be 24. That's too old. That's not what I'm going to say. But, to me, the Raiders have other needs that Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, you can't afford to take one of those guys at pick 11. Let's say in a crazy world, the Raiders, ended up making the playoffs, and the Raiders are in, the 20s. That's where that conversation can be had. I still think it is a little bit of a reach, but there's just no way the Raiders can take any of those quarterbacks that high. There's just no way you can do it. Let's go to Patrick B. Mount Raidermore. I feel a bit bad for Bo. We really are not seeing his playbook or offense, and the problem the last few weeks has been execution. Since he went upstairs, he had called some good games. Quarterback play has been a bigger problem. Oh, man. I actually don't 100% agree with this. I thought Bo Hardegreen's worst game as an offensive coordinator, not worst game, one of the worst games was this past week up against Indy. I mean, the amount of non-converted 3rd down and 1s and just, again, overcomplicating the simple, trying to do way too many trick plays. And my problem with Bo, and same exact problem as with Josh McDaniels, their offenses are predicated on ran like they got Tom Brady at QB. I do think that Aiden struggled, and again, anybody that watches this show knows that I'm not a big believer in Aiden as a starting quarterback. I do think he's going to be a decent backup, a good backup in the National Football League. And yes, Bo, once he went upstairs, did do a better job, but outside of the game against the Chargers, I don't really see how any Raider fan can sit up here and say, Bo Hardegreen has been, or quarterback play has been the bigger problem. Yeah, Aiden wasn't great, but, also Devontae had 2 drops. I think Jacoby had 2 drops. The receivers did not do Aiden any help. But Bo, to me, proved that he clearly cannot be
an OC in the National Football League. I'm just saying I feel for him a bit. I feel for Bo. I also feel for Aiden, but that I also can sit up here and say that those guys just clearly aren't going to be cut out to be moving in the right direction. No Bo in 2024 from running with scissors. I hear you. Coming up here live on the Raiders Report is Tom Brady recruiting Jim Harbaugh to Las Vegas. I'm going to tell you this right now. This is a must-watch show. Then we're going to look at some draft targets at pick 11. I got my big board that I'm going to show y'all. Giggity. My top 11 players that I think the Raiders should go out and target. I'm also going to tell you how much it's going to cost for the Raiders to get to pick 3, 2, and 1. Russell Wilson of the Raiders. I'm going to tell you why it does and why it doesn't make sense. Okay? Then, as always, hashtag Raiders or Super Chat. Get those questions, comments a-flowing. Let's go to one more Super Chat here because I see it's from Mask80. And Mask80 is saying some pretty big things here in these streets. He says, I'm getting on Mount Raider more. New Year's resolution. I wish you the best of luck, Mask80. I know you've had some wild shows here from time to time since we've been doing this, but I know this. It's not about just doing it once or twice a week. It's about the consistency for an entire season, an entire off season, but it's also showing love to people in the chat. It's also about giving back. So some shows, man, are wild, wild, wild. Mask, I appreciate it, and I'm going to wish you the best of luck. All right, y'all, final call here before we get into our first segment around our 50-50 raffle. Right now, 3 people are in, which means 10 to win 15. If you get in, well, then you have a chance to win $20. So Venmo me at Mitchell Renz 365. We're going to do a duck race at the very, very end of the show. Also, I just see David Zahn. What's up, David Zahn? All right, y'all, coming up right now here, Tom Brady recruiting Jim Harbaugh to the Las Vegas Raiders. If you haven't seen this story, maybe you don't follow me on social media all that much, which is all good. I get, during the holidays, people miss some stuff. But, wow, oh, wow. I'm telling you, there's a lot of smoke growing right now around Harbaugh to the silver and black. You ready? Chuck says yes. Coming up, let's get into the latest here around Harbaugh to Las Vegas because Tom Brady, I think he's working his magic here a little bit. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and Jim Harbaugh to the Raiders. Rumors are starting to heat up yet again. And what's crazy is I am always the person that says where there's smoke, there's fire, and the smoke continues to grow and grow. Here's the thing, though. What's crazy, last week I came up here on this show, and I said that there is no chance Jim Harbaugh comes to Las Vegas. After what has happened over the weekend, I'm telling y'all right now, that door is definitely open again for Harbaugh to come to the silver and black. And coming up here on today's show, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm talking about because, oh boy, I'm actually surprised that fire alarms aren't going off with all this smoke. If you want constant coverage of the Las Vegas Raiders all year long, every single day, I'm going to make a pledge to you. For the next 366 days of 2024, there will be a video on this channel every single day. It's going to be 100% free, but to make sure that you never miss anything, because this is going to be the most insane offseason that I have ever covered for the Raiders. I don't want you to miss it. A lot of stuff. Hit that subscribe button. So let's first talk about this timeline, and I'm going to go to my first time I put on the show here, December 19th, about Harbaugh, Raiders, Mark Davis, and you go back to December 19th, I talked about on the show that Mark Davis is, according to a source close to me, having backdoor communications with Harbaugh and that Davis is going to have a contract ready after the college football playoff. So we know somebody very close to Harbaugh. We reported probably 2 weeks ago that Harbaugh had a Michigan agent, an NFL agent, and then just kind of a lawyer to dot the I's, cross the T's, doing a lot of different stuff here with this situation. Everybody that is a loyal fan of the Raiders knows that Mark Davis is great friends, has a great working relationship with Jim Harbaugh, but not only a great relationship, they stay in contact. And a lot of times, friendships come and go, people stay in the loop, but for them to have a constant contact, I do think is really important. Then December 25th, Michigan doesn't get a deal done. The reason why this is important is because we talked about back on the 19th that Harbaugh essentially set a deadline for Michigan saying, hey, I want a brand new contract extension before Christmas Day. Obviously, that did not happen, but the fact that he was looking for an extension from Michigan by Christmas, we know that he's not going to negotiate until after the season because he doesn't want to, stir the pot here. They got to focus on Washington. They got to focus on trying to win a national championship. But Harbaugh himself and his team, they were not happy that a deal did not get done. And because a deal did not get done, back on the 19th of December, we reported here that if that was not going to be the case and that they don't sign the dotted line at Michigan, that basically Harbaugh's team is going to not take Michigan very seriously. Per Ian Rappaport on December 24th, this is right before Christmas Day, he reported that Jim Harbaugh had a 10-year, $125 million deal from Michigan on the table. And the reason why it's that 10-year number, from what I am being told, is because Michigan knew that Mark Davis was ready to go. And they wanted to show Harbaugh that, hey, we can one-up what the Raiders did with 10-year, $100 million guaranteed to John Gruden a few years ago. That's why that 10-year, $125 million number was being thrown out there by Rappaport in terms of Michigan giving that to Mr. Harbaugh. Here's the thing, though, right? A lot of Harbaugh conversations, and then I think it died for one day. Why? The Christmas miracle. The Christmas miracle of the Raiders not being able to score an offensive touchdown against Kansas City, and they come away with a win. I sat up here on this show, and I said, hey, if Antonio Pierce can outcoach Andy Reid, they go into Arrowhead, they can get a dub. As far as I'm concerned, Antonio Pierce deserves to be the next head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and I still am going to stick to that. I am a big believer that the correct answer here for the Raiders, because you're still paying Gruden, because you're still paying Ziegler, because you're still paying Josh McDaniels, is to go to a cheaper option at head coach like Antonio Pierce. And instead of just trying to hire the big whale at head coach, because you've tried that twice now, though McDaniels was never going to be good. It was always going to be a disaster. Maybe you go with the guy that the locker room wants, that the players want, that the fan base wants, and instead of trying to just build or find the one great head coach, why don't you try to build a great staff? Because that doesn't seem like a crazy idea at all. But my question of the nation out there is this. I said that Antonio Pierce deserves to be the next head coach of the Raiders. However, as the time that I am making this video, AP is 4-4 as an intern. Jim Harbaugh is still winning football games at Michigan. They're going to play for a national championship. So who's the better head coach? And it's not better head coaches overall, because that answer is Harbaugh. It's who's a better head coach for the Raiders. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. Scroll on down and let me know. All right, let's go to the next thing here for the Harbaugh to Las Vegas timeline. On December 28th, it was reported that the Chargers now are also showing a little bit of interest in old Jim here. They reportedly could be willing to offer him up to $15 million a year, which I'm telling you all this right now. That really wouldn't surprise me. He's got a good relationship with San Diego, and when I say San Diego, I mean the city, because Harbaugh coached San Diego, the college football team, before he went to Stanford, and even though the Chargers don't play in San Diego anymore, I still know there's a lot of San Diego fans in San Diego that root for the Chargers, and if the Chargers are going to show interest, well, that could be a team that potentially takes Harbaugh away from the Las Vegas Raiders. The Chargers were a team that I said, all right, there's a chance that he could go to. I've always said, and this goes all the way back to December 19th, that Harbaugh has been eyeing the Bears because that would be his top choice to return to the National Football League. In Chicago, according to a source close to us here at Chat Sports, was apparently the only team that Harbaugh would personally reach out to, and has always viewed the Bears as his Michigan of the NFL. Remember, he was drafted by Chicago. He played college football at Michigan. Obviously, this is where he coaches right now. So there's going to be multiple teams out there for Harbaugh. I mean, as soon as teams can start hiring people, okay, every single NFL team is going to have Jim Harbaugh circled. But the question is, can the Raiders lure Harbaugh to Las Vegas when it does sound like Chicago and the Chargers might be willing to pay him a little bit more? Now, I know a lot of y'all are like, all right, Mitch, but what's heating up? Why did you start this show saying where there's smoke, there's fire, and now it has totally changed over the weekend? Well, guess what? Coming up next here on the show, I'm going to tell you why the Harbaugh to Las Vegas rumors are hot. And it's something that really has not been covered, really hasn't been reported on. But once you hear it, you're going to be like, yeah, money talks, and money definitely talks. Before I tell you what that rumor is, though, today's show sponsor is Prize Picks. And for anybody out there that wants to put a few money or a few dollars down, you could do it on NFL games this weekend. You could do it on the Michigan-Washington game coming up. Heck, NBA, any sport that is in season, you can do it. And all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. And quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types will make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. If you're wondering, all right, Mitch, what are some of your picks for the week? Well, when I checked Prize Picks today on Tuesday, there wasn't any Raiders-Broncos stats up yet, or I guess predictions, if you will, because Jarrett Stidham, Aiden O'Connell, there's still a few little unknowns. So what I decided to do is I saw a brand new feature on Prize Picks about popular picks. So I went with all the popular picks right now. I went with Baker Mayfield, more, C.J. Stroud, less, and then C.D. Lamb up against the Commanders, more. If you want to fade me, go fade me. If you want to ride with my picks as well, there's one place to do it and one place only. That is at prizepicks.com/CLNS. And make sure that you use code CLNS. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, let's go now to the final reason, and this is why that the door is reopened for Harbaugh to come to the Las Vegas Raiders. Harbaugh has hired Tom Brady's agent, and agents make a lot of decisions. We know that. And the fact that Harbaugh has hired, Don Yee to be his agent, it speaks volumes to me in regards to Harbaugh's going to leave Michigan. He's sick of everything going on right now at the NCAA. Win or lose at this national championship game, unless Michigan throws him, I'm talking boats and boats load of money and all the control he could possibly want. But the fact that he hired Don Yee to represent him tells me that he's going to the NFL. And when you think about that, like Don Yee obviously is agents with Tom Brady. Tom Brady now is very well connected with the Raiders. It has been wildly reported that Mark Davis is going to talk to Tom Brady about where the future of this team could potentially go, and the fact that Harbaugh is sick of the NCAA attacking him, the hire of Don Yee, I mean, it's all wrapped up into that. On top of that, Yee is extremely well connected with Mark Davis and extremely well connected with the city of Las Vegas and the Raiders in general. So let's hop into our time machine. Let's go back to December 19th because I said on this show that Harbaugh's wife has been pushing him to go to Vegas. And any guy out there knows, hey, if the wife, significant other, your partner, girlfriend, I don't care who it is, if it's this person and they're telling you, hey, I wouldn't mind going back to Vegas because this is where we met and I had, I had a life in Vegas before I met you. I mean, it could obviously be something that Harbaugh decides to do. Like, at this point in Jim's life, don't get me wrong, millions of dollars is great, right? Or could you decide to maybe take a little bit less money and go to the city that your wife wants you to go to? Like, if you're Jim Harbaugh, like, all right, I could go to Chicago, I could go be the next head coach of the Chargers, and I can make more money. Or do I take a few $1 million less and make my wife happy? It's going to be an interesting conversation, but the fact that Don Yee is now Jim Harbaugh's agent, who is same agent as Tom Brady, very well connected to Mark Davis, very well connected to the Raiders, I'm telling you right now, it is growing and growing and growing yet again. So my question to the nation is this: who do you think will be the Raiders head coach in 2024? Nico Laz also says no income tax. Oh, I know. You might not get as much money on your contract, but after taxes, you might still end up making more. Who do you think will be the Raiders head coach in 2024? Obviously, right now, the interim is Antonio Pierce. But I've talked a lot about Jim Harbaugh. And my answer to this question is, to me, there, as it stands right now, 5 candidates, right? If you were to ask me, Mitch, make your own betting odds or give me the top 5 coaches that are the most likely to be the next Raiders head coach next season, this would be my list. Coming on here at number 1, it's Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach. At number 2, it's Jim Harbaugh, which if you watched the show last week, is a big jump, getting Harbaugh up here to number 2. At number 3, it's going to be Frank Smith. OC in Miami, has a lot of connections to the Raiders, was also previously with the Raiders back in Oakland. Lou, the defensive coordinator from Cincinnati, and the Raiders, from what I understand, want to be able to find somebody that can take down Kansas City. Lou, the Bengals, they've had some success against Cincinnati. I get, this past week went the way that it did. But also Trey Brown, who is very well connected to Champ Kelly, is also very tied in. Trey Brown with Lou, currently right now in the Cincinnati staff. He's kind of a sneaky name, I'm not going to lie. And then David Shaw, who I do not want, head coach of the Stanford Cardinals, has been another name that has been linked to the Raiders that, right now there's been a few names linked. Harbaugh, Pierce, David Shaw. For that reason, Shaw makes my top 5. But the reason why I do think AP deserves to be the next head coach, and I still believe that he is going to be the head coach. However, I said on this show, if you beat Kansas City, the job's yours. Mark Davis had a very long conversation with Antonio Pierce after the Raiders' 23-20 loss to the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. I know that Davis has these conversations very often with whoever the coach is, and usually it's not a great conversation. I will admit I have not heard whether it was good, whether it was bad. The only thing that I know is that it was a lengthy conversation. But as it stands right now, Pierce is 4-4 as the interim head coach. Okay, you lose to the Broncos, you go at 4-5. It might be a little bit of a tougher sell because you want your team to be playing the best football, even if the game doesn't mean anything. So, week 18, I get it. Against the Broncos. This is also my mom's birthday, so shout out to moms. 8-8 Denver. The last time that the Broncos beat the Raiders, December 29th, 2019. Yeah, you were able to beat the Chiefs. Don't be the head coach, though, that loses to the Broncos and then has a losing record as interim head coach. I will say this right now. If you want Antonio Pierce to be the Raiders head coach, okay, this upcoming season, I think he's got to beat the Broncos. But what do y'all think? Do the Raiders need to beat Denver for AP to get the job? If you don't like my opinion, that's fine. This show is built on the backs of all y'all. Yes or no? Do the Raiders need to beat the Broncos for AP to get the job? I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say. I know some people that are going to answer this question are my real ones. And this is the part of the year that, yeah, it's a brand new year for 2024, but the end of the regular season is week 18. And I want to give a shout out to my real ones. My real ones are the people that are still tuned in live. Right? Shit, right now we got 1,200 people watching this live, but it's also the people that watch the videos on a Monday, the day after the Raiders lose, right? It's a tough one. So shout out to Venom, Kaylee, Rob, Luis, Ryan Campbell. I appreciate you guys, and I hope that you continue to ride with me during the entire offseason because it's going to be a hell of an offseason. So shout out to all my real ones, and if you're like, Mitch, how can I be a real one? Subscribe, share the videos when you have opportunities to, interact with us live on the shows. Don't be afraid to comment on videos. Click that like button. It's doing the little things is how you become a real one. So to me, I thought that the win over the Chiefs would be enough for AP. But Mark Davis might not hire him if the Raiders lose their final 2 games. And if you got Tom Brady whispering in your ear, and you got, some other people that make very important decisions for the Raiders whispering in your ear about Jim Harbaugh, and if Harbaugh goes out and wins a national championship at Michigan, that's a great resume, right? He was able to turn around San Diego, the college football program, was able to turn around Stanford, was able to turn around the 49ers, was able to turn around Michigan. Harbaugh is a proven winner, and even though Antonio Pierce has that great relationship with the locker room, the players, and I think that's who the fan base wants, Harbaugh's going to have Davis going to have a really tough decision. And all I want is Antonio Pierce to make that decision a little bit easier by taking down the Denver Broncos in Week 18 in a game that might not matter from playoff seeding. But if you want AP to solidify a chance to be the head coach, I think a win against Denver does that. If he don't beat Denver, man, oh man, I don't know if Antonio Pierce is going to be the next head coach of the Silver and Black. All right, Silks, let's give some shout-outs here. I got to switch my jersey here real quick.
Oh, a little quick change.
Yeah, I got to do a quick little change here. I want to give some shout-outs here and give your opinion on this.
Let's see. Do the Raiders need to beat the Broncos for AP to get the job? I think with a backup quarterback in Jarrett Stidham for the Broncos and a game that I mean, on paper might not mean a lot to either team. I mean, it might be more helpful for either of these teams to lose this next game. I don't know if that necessarily – I'm going to say no. I don't think the Raiders need to beat the Broncos for AP to get the job. I think AP, more than anything, needs a plan for next year to change the quarterback, to change the offense. And I think that's the biggest thing is that AP needs to show some foresight. He needs to show some, hindsight's always 20/20. You got to have, that ability to look into the future and ability to say, hey, this is the plan I'm going to do, and these are the steps I'm going to do to enact that plan to make our offense better. And if he doesn't come up with a plan to, get a new OC, get a new quarterback, help out the biggest areas of need on either side of the ball. I mean, offense, interior lineman, you got 3 starters who are going to be free agents.
Sure.
Defense, you haven't had a reliable defensive tackle probably until week 13, week 14 of this year.
For real.
The secondary's kind of up in the air of what you're going to do. You got to have a good plan for next year. Yeah. And if I don't necessarily think the Broncos beating them, which, like I said, it might be better for the Raiders, which we never root for losses, but it might be better for them draft capital-wise if they want to get a quarterback to not win this game.
I mean, right now the Raiders pick at 11. If they lose to the Broncos then get a better draft pick than the Raiders. I would say if the Raiders win this week, they're probably picking somewhere at around 14 or 15.
Yeah.
Where if you lose, you can probably get into that top 10. If you get into the top 10, you at least give yourself a shot to get one of those franchise quarterbacks.
And I'm really glad there's the rules in place to where AP still has to interview.
Yep.
Because I would say, hey, I know you're the interim right now. Come in like any one of these other guys who's trying to get the job, and I want you to impress me. I want you to blow my socks off right now because I want this team to get better, and I want you to you have to be a salesman. You got to sell me on the future of the Raiders. Yeah. If you just come in, you're like, you know what? I got the locker room. We're all tight-knit. That's fine, but that's not going to win you a Super Bowl. That could win you some games. You could probably make the playoffs.
Yeah. Being the cool guy in the locker room, that only gets you so far. So I definitely hear a lot of the stuff you're saying. I also just wanted to chime in here real quick. The Raiders made a few roster moves real quick. They placed tight end Cole Fotheringham on the practice squad IR list, or injured list, excuse me. And then they signed E.J. Jenkins to the practice squad. So a lot of tight end stuff going on here for the Raiders. Next thing that we're going to get into here is the Super Chats / if you have a question, use hashtag Raiders, and then we're going to continue to answer a lot of these, and the next segment's going to be around some Raiders draft targets. Let's go to, is this Jay? JJ.
M.
Director. Number 1, get Russ for free, basically. He will be on a revenge tour. 2, trade back for more defensive picks. As you see, it's a good investment. And 3, get a new OC. I will be making a video at some point this offseason, probably like after next week, about my perfect plan for the Las Vegas Raiders and their perfect offseason. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson, so I'm going to tell you why it does and doesn't make sense for the Raiders to go out and get him. Trade for more picks, like, I hear what you're saying for the more picks thing. To me, though, the Raiders are... I always want value. I'm not just going to trade back to trade back. Like, if there's players on the board that you need, go out and get them. And yes, you're going to need to find yourself a new OC. Let's go to HR. The Raiders are dysfunctional and make the wrong decisions 90% of the time. If the organization had the passion and commitment of Mitchell Renz, you would be a Super Bowl team. I appreciate the hell out of that. I mean, I know Chugs and I, we put in a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I don't disagree with the idea that if the Raiders were to actually listen to what we recommend on the show, that we'd be in a much better situation. I also saw, you were commenting down below that, you can't have a quick fix, and you're right. The Raiders, they can't have a quick fix. And I know a lot of fans are always quick to fire guys, and I know I was quick to fire McDaniels because I never believed in him. However, though, to me, for you to be a good head coach, for you to be a good GM, it's kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that Jeremy was saying, where you got to be able to look into the future, right? You're not planning just for 2024. You're planning for 2025, 2026. Like, you always have to be looking. Like if I'm a head coach GM, I'm looking at a 3-year window all the time. And if you're not, you don't deserve to have the job. Like if the NFL, they give you 3 years of picks, right? The Raiders have picks 2024, 2025, 2026. If you're not looking at a 3-year window, even contract extensions, going out trading a guy, giving him an extension, like it is 3-year window all the flipping time. And I don't feel like the Raiders have done a very good job of building a 3-year window. It's just been every year.
I watched this video online, and it was talking about how some of the most successful companies in the world run. Amazon, with Jeff Bezos, how it's run. How they've gone from $1 million to billion to now $1 trillion in worth, right? And apparently at Amazon, they're not working on stuff for this year. The stuff that they're working on today is for 2 years from now. They're consistently working 2 years ahead on everything that they're trying to do at Amazon. So if you're just thinking about this year, if you're not thinking about a year or 2 years down the road,
you're going to be left behind.
Won't be as successful. Yeah.
You're going to get left behind. All right, I got to add a few more people here to our race. Stewart, you in. Justin Abgen, you in. Jamari.
In.
Murray, in. Anthony Green, in. And then also Scott Eckert, you in. So right now, 8 people you in, which means winner would get $40. $10 Venmo to win 40. Ben
Bailey.
Hoping Mark Davis stops trying to outsmart himself, make the easy pick, go with AP, and get a great OC. Like, it's not about just getting a great OC. It's also about building a great staff, right? Like, that's why I like the idea if you keep AP, you keep Champ Kelly. I think the Raiders would be smart then to bring in a guy like a Marvin Lewis, who's got a lot of connections with those guys. And bring in a guy like Trey Brown, but you put a good staff.
Supered twice.
Oh. Who's the best OC we should get if we keep AP? Oh, boy. It's actually not a matter of if we keep AP discussion. For me, if I'm going to interview as the next Raiders OC, and I've said this before on this show, but the way that you have to do it is you're going to walk in and you're going to say, here are my plans at quarterback. And if I'm going to interview to be that next OC, I'm going to say, here's my plan at QB in the draft. Right? If I'm going to walk in there and say, my plan at QB in the draft is this guy, I got to lay out what we need in order to do to get him, okay? If that's my plan A. If plan A doesn't work, well, then you go to your plan Bs, which is where I think like the Justin Fields trade conversation comes in. The signing Russell Wilson trade or discussion comes in. And then if those aren't good, then you got to look to other free agency or other picks that you could potentially do in the draft.
Kirk Cousins.
Dude, Cousins. I don't know how you go bring in Cousins, man. But to me, that's what the next OC should do. I want a quarterback. OC. You need to go find your OC based on the quarterback that they want. That's what you need to do.
Raider Gaines.
I think it's more about the fans showing up and ticket sales still being up with AP. If you can't bring excitement, Mark may look at another coach. Mark, no matter what's going to look at other coaches, as he should. Like, even though I think AP's done a good job, the Raiders team is playing better. They're playing more competitive football. Ticket sales, I get it. But, I mean, I could also make the legit argument of if you hired Jim Harbaugh on Raiders ticket sales, much higher than Antonio Pierce head coach ticket sales, right? Ticket sales is going to be a big part of it. Attention, media, it's all going to be a part of it. But I do think Mark has to... It's not always about making the big splash. And Davis has tried to do the big splash, and he's tried to bring in people to, talk to him, and he's a very easily persuaded person. I just hope that this year, the people that Mark legitimately listens to know what they're talking about. Because unfortunately, the people that Mark's been listening to the past few years, they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't need my owner to know football. And Mark has admitted he doesn't know football. But you got to be able to hire the right people to make the right football decisions, which is why I like the idea of bringing in or keeping AP, keeping Champ Kelly, both very intelligent people, but then bringing in and building a good staff, not just finding a great head coach, but building a great overall staff. That's what this organization needs to do. All right, let's get into our next segment here. And remember, if you want a chance to win some money, have the opportunity to do it right now. Raiders Sancho.
Cowboys signing Lael Collins.
It's official? Wow. Yep. That's pretty big, man. And then Robert Cisneros. So 10 people are in. Winner gets $50. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, we're going to look at some Raiders draft targets. So obviously with the Raiders picking at number 11, I'm going to give you my big board of here are the 11 players that I would put on the board, and you can potentially pick the final guy there. And I'll go through and I'll explain why each dude is ranked where they are.
I see. Is that Gio using the hashtag Raiders? He says, would you be mad if the Raiders selected Kool-Aid at 11?
No. I wouldn't be mad about it. He's a hell of a corner. He's a hell of an athlete. Could do a lot of different things here for this team. Would give you some special teams ability on top of that if you let him be the athlete that I think that he can be. But it comes down to overall needs. Like, there's a lot of needs. Like, it also comes down to what does the Raiders' cornerback room look like, right? Like, yeah, you got Nate Hobbs. You're going to have Jack Jones back. Amik Robertson's going to be a free agent. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen by the draft. And if the Raiders kind of do what they did this past year, where they ignored corner in the draft and in free agency, well, then that's where that conversation needs to be had. But I like Kool-Aid. He's going to be in my top 10. Spoiler alert. All right, y'all, so let's get into this right now. Coming up next here on the show, let's get into some Raiders draft targets. Let's get into what it would cost for the Raiders to trade up to number 1, 2, number 3. I'm going to lay out all of that for you. And I think we're going to talk about 2 quarterbacks in particular. Cool?
Cool.
All right, let's go. All right, coming up next here on the show then is this. Oh, wow. I realized that this is what the show is. I've been looking at this graphic, and I thought it was the coming up one from the start of the show. I'm an idiot. Okay, ready?
I'm an idiot. You're an idiot.
Great movie. Raider Nation, what's going on? Coming up here on the Raiders Report, let's look at the 2024 NFL Draft Order and figure out which teams could potentially pick a QB in front of the silver and black. I'm also going to lay out my Raiders draft targets at 11. Essentially, my big board, the top 11 players that if I was the GM head coach in the war room there with the Raiders, I'm going to give you my top 11 players. Then, since there are a lot of teams picking in front of the Raiders, I'm going to tell you what it's going to cost to trade up to number 3, 2, and what it's going to cost to trade up to number 1. In fact, I got 2 trades there. And then we're going to talk about Michigan, Washington, because as far as I'm concerned, it is a must-watch football game for the silver and black. So as it stands right now, entering Week 18, still one more week to go, here is the current 2024 NFL Draft Order. And with the loss that happened this past week with Carolina, the Chicago Bears have secured the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. From 9 to 16, this is where the Raiders end up falling here at number 11. And there are a lot of teams that could potentially be vying for a QB ahead of the Raiders. So I really do think if they want to get a guy like Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, or Caleb Williams, you're going to have to trade up into that top 3, which is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing here on today's show. From 17 to 24, again, a lot of changes are going to be happening this week, I think. You got the Cardinals there at 17. From 25 to 32, and this is just based on where teams are currently ranked right now. If the season were to end today, you got the Texans there at number 28. That's their pick from the Deshaun Watson trade. Cowboys at 30. The Dolphins actually get a first-round pick this year. But as it stands right now, this is the current 2024 NFL Draft Order. So coming up here, I'm going to tell you the top 11 players, okay? Top 11 players that should be on the Raiders' big board at pick 11. Now, some of these guys, I'm going to be real, they're not going to be there at 11. They're just not. But when you pick at 11, I do think it's important to make a big board of your top 11 players. And if you want to go best player available, which is what the Raiders should do, go best player available, you take that dude. To make sure, though, you don't miss anything going on around draft coverage. Because at this point of the year, I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's talk about free agency. We'll talk about it. But I want the Raiders to draft a quarterback. That's me being honest with you. I want the silver and black to draft a QB. So this year, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you guys know that everything going on around the Raiders, what they could do for drafts, my opinion on what the Raiders should do in the draft, because, well, if anybody thinks that they could do a better job drafting in round one than the Raiders, I want you to click that like button right now. So let's now get into my big board here. I'm going to go from 11 down to 1, and coming in here at number 11, I'm going to go with Malik Neighbors, wide receiver out of LSU. I freaking love this kid. He's a phenomenal athlete, and I know it sounds crazy to say out loud, but there is not a 0% chance that Davante Adams gets traded. If Davante Adams does get traded and the Raiders need to go up and find another receiver in this year's draft, I do think Malik Neighbors could be a very intriguing option as my number 2 receiver. Let's go to Kool-Aid McKinstry here, cornerback out of Alabama. I think he's the best athlete at corner in this year's draft. Hell of a player, can do a lot of great things. I think it would be a really good fit if the Raiders decide to move on from Amik Robertson, not re-sign him in free agency. You pair him with Nate Hobbs and a guy like Jack Jones, that's a lot of swagger. My favorite corner, and Kool-Aid's a better athlete. Wiggins, to me, I think is a better cornerback prospect from what I have watched, which is why he comes in here at number 9. At number 8, defensive tackle out of Illinois, Jerzon Newton, and he is the number 1 DT on my list. Do I think that he is a better prospect than Neighbors, Kool-Aid, or Nate Wiggins? Honestly, I do not. But because the Raiders, to me, still need to be able to go out and add a defensive tackle on the interior, I think it's important. Despite the Raiders having a guy like Adam Butler, despite the Raiders, moving in Tyree Wilson to play a little DT, I do think Newton would help out this interior defense quite a bit. Let's go to number 7 here. It's Dallas Turner. And yes, I do think defensive tackle is a bigger need than edge. But Turner, to me, is a phenomenal athlete. And to me, you just can't have enough guys that can get after the quarterback. Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, Dallas Turner, little outside linebacker action. Good luck trying to stop that. Let's now go to the big boys up front. Joe Alt, the offensive tackle from Notre Dame, is probably actually one of my favorite offensive tackle prospects. And we can go right here to number 5 as well. And Olu from Penn State. These are your top 2 OTs. And yes, they are both left tackles. And yes, you still have Colton Miller on the roster. But if I'm being 100% honest with y'all, Colton Miller has experience playing right tackle. I wouldn't be against the idea of you drafting Joe or Olu, putting them at left tackle, and then kicking over Colton Miller at right tackle because Jermaine Illuminor is a free agent. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Marvin Harrison Jr., and he might be the best player in this year's draft. Like, if I'm not even talking about just overall position. Obviously, I don't really think that he's going to fall to the Raiders at 11. In fact, I'd be shocked if he falls out of the top 5, top 6. But he is number 4. And then my top 3, I don't even need to reveal this. It's just quarterbacks. It's Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake Maye. I have put these in order of what I think is the biggest Raiders need. And to me, the biggest Raiders need, and it's not close, it's at the quarterback position. However, though, none of those players are falling to you at 11. I mean, I hate to break it to you. If you think one of those 3 quarterbacks is falling to you at 11, man, oh man, I'd love to sell you something for way overpriced. So to me, the only way that you're going to get one of those guys is to trade up into the NFL draft. So coming up here on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you what it's going to cost to trade the number 3, to trade the number 2, and then I got 2 trade ideas to get up to number 1. Because for me personally, I want the Raiders to find themselves a franchise quarterback, even if it means trading up and getting their guy. Before I show you all 4 of those trades, shout out to Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS to make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I had a great time during Prize Picks, Picksmas, when they were doing a whole bunch of different deals. And in the year of 2024, they're going to do a whole bunch of new deals as well. But Prize Picks to me is really simple. Like, if my dad can sit down in less than 60 seconds, and if he can make his picks, I'm telling y'all right now, you have absolutely no excuse. So for this week, I'm going to roll Baker Mayfield more on the passing yards. I mean, dude's been slinging it in a game that doesn't matter for Carolina. Means a lot for Baker and the Bucs. Give me the more on that one. CJ Stroud, I'm going to go less because Indy has done a good job this season of slowing down the games. And interdivision are always tough games to put my finger on. So because of that, I'm going to go less. And then CeeDee Lamb up against the worst defense in the NFL and the Commanders. Yeah, I'll take the more on that one. So again, you can either take my picks, you can fade, you can do whatever you want. But if you do want to get started, go down in the comments, go down in the description, click on that link, download the app. It's easy. It's exciting. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. Pick 2+ players, choose more or less. That's all you got to do. All right, let's get into it now. Coming up here, the draft trade value to get a top quarterback. If you're watching this live, if you're watching on a later date and you go, I want Jayden Daniels, I want Caleb Williams, I want Drake Maye to be the next quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, well, guess what? I made this video because people do not understand how much it costs to trade up and get a quarterback of one of those three. People just don't get it. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on Instagram, and I get it. People don't think that it's going to cost multiple first-round picks. But here's the thing. That's what NFL teams value. They value draft picks very much. So the trades that you're about to see are based on the NFL trade value chart, which anybody can go out there and Google. It's also based on past trades in the NFL draft, but it's also based on people who I've talked to, people who are very well connected in the NFL draft world, people who are very well connected to Chicago, and you have to understand that the value to get up in this year's draft is higher than what it's been because of how much touted or how well touted, I don't know, the top three quarterbacks are in this year's class. Highly touted, that's the word I'm looking for. Shout out to Chugs. So let's first talk about for the Raiders. This is based on where they are at right now at the time that I'm making this video. Right now, the Raiders are picking at 11, and the fact that the Raiders, to get to 11 all the way up to where they got to go, based on the trade value chart, Raiders get the number 3 pick, which then gives you the ability to take any one of those top 3 quarterbacks. And the NFL team, since it has not been set in stone yet who's picking number 3, it's going to cost a first and a third-round pick in 2024, so that's pick 11 and pick 75. And it's also going to cost a first and a second-round pick in 2025. So if you look at this trade here and you go, that's worth it to get a guy like Jayden Daniels, cool. Sign up. Let's get it going. If you're like Mitch, I want either Drake Maye or Caleb Williams. Guess what? The only way that that's even a possibility is if you trade up to number 2. So if you're trying to trade up to number 2 based off NFL trade value chart, based on past trades, based on just higher market for Caleb Williams and Drake Maye being what those quarterback prospects are, that's going to cost you 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick in 2024, and then a third-round pick in 2025. So 3 first-round picks, a third, and then another third. If you're like, that's worth it for Caleb Williams or Drake Maye, awesome. If you're like Mitch, I want the number 1 overall pick. I want to pick who I want to have to be my next franchise quarterback. Well, guess what? I sat down with somebody very well connected to Chicago, and I said, tell me what you would want for it. This is what I got. 3 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. So you're getting 2024, 2025, 2026. Ship them all off to Chicago. And then you're also getting your second-round picks in 2024 and 2025. So essentially, the next 2 years, you don't got a first and a second. And then also in 2026, you don't got a first. So you better hope whoever you pick is your franchise guy, because if you end up being like Carolina, you're in trouble for multiple years. In fact, you might be in trouble until 2027. But I also said this, don't just give me picks, trades based on picks. Give me a trade based on a player. Now, at first they go Max Crosby, and that ain't happening. They're not going to trade Max. So, or if you don't want to give up this many picks, this is what the Bears guy told me. 3 first-round picks and Devontae Adams for the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. And if you're like, that's way too much, well, then you don't want Jayden Daniels, you don't want Caleb Williams, you don't want Drake Maye bad enough, because there are going to be multiple NFL teams ahead of the Raiders that are willing to offer certain picks for those quarterbacks. And if you're the Raiders, based off where you're drafting, you got to make it a little bit sweeter in order for you to get those deals. So my question to you is this. Should the Raiders trade to get into the top 3 of the NFL draft? Yes or no? I know a lot of people don't like the idea of trading for a Justin Fields or rolling with a guy like Russell Wilson, or, some of y'all are probably like, well, shit, let's go with Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, or J.J. McCarthy, a cheaper option. To me, though, when I look at how much that is, okay, I would rather the Raiders trade into the top 3 to select one of those top 3 quarterbacks over drafting a Bo Nix, over drafting a Michael Penix Jr., over drafting a J.J. McCarthy, because I have that much more confidence in those 3 QBs than I do anybody else. And as far as I'm concerned, until the Raiders, and I get it, past regimes, until the Raiders can prove to me that first-round picks actually mean something, shit, man, I'm trading those picks and I'm getting my franchise guy. Here's the thing, though. If you're going to trade all those picks, you want to be able to pick your dude. And it's not too often that a brand new head coach, because that's what you got to think about it, brand new head coach, it's not too often they're going to say, I don't care if I get Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, or Jayden Daniels. And because of that, because you're going to have to give up quite a bit to get any one of those 3 guys, chances are you're not going to trade up to number 3. Chances are you might not even trade up to number 2. If I'm going to be the next head coach and I'm going to ask Mark Davis to give up that much draft capital to go out and get my guy, because trading those picks for the number 3 and the fact that the Raiders might not get their guy makes me think that they're going to go all in. You're either going to get the number 1 overall pick or you're probably not going to do it at all. Imagine if their top guy, right? Imagine if Jayden Daniels is their top guy and they give up all this draft capital to get up to number 3, and then another team takes Jayden Daniels at number 1. Well, now you're sitting there going, well, crap, I just gave up all my draft picks. Now, sure, the fan base likes Caleb Williams. They like Drake Maye. I'd be celebrating. But you got to think about the organization. They have a guy in mind. And if you want that in particular player, you're probably going to try to do everything in your power in order to get him. Now, if you don't want to trade tons of draft capital or a star player like a Devontae Adams to get a quarterback in the next draft, then I do think that watching the College Football National Championship is a must-do for anybody that reps the show, for anybody out there that considers themselves a Raider fan, because I see the live chat right now. There's a lot of people saying, Mitch, there's no way I'm giving up that much to go up in the number 3, 2, 1. That's fine. You're just not going to get Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, or Drake Maye, which means you have to turn your attention and then the other quarterbacks in the draft, which to me, that next tier of QBs is Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy. Well, luckily, 2 of those guys are playing in the national title game here between Washington and Michigan. This game's going to get kicked off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Houston, Texas. The over-under is at 55.5 points, and Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite. I watched Michael Penix Jr. sling it up against Texas. I watched J.J. McCarthy have a hell of a comeback and really step up clutch in overtime. Shout out to Blake Corum as well. My question, though, is this. Who you got? Because even though this is the Raiders Report, I love college football. I love football in general. And I just genuinely want to know who you guys are taking in this game. So if you're going to go with the Washington Huskies, I want you to type W. If you're going to go with the Michigan Wolverines, I want you to type M. And actually, after this YouTube ad break, I'm going to tell you who Chugs and I both took in the Natty. I'm rolling with the Huskies. Chugs is going to roll with Blue. I will admit, I don't really care who wins this game. I think it's a great story either way. But if I was a betting man, I would bet on Washington and that prolific offense. To me, I look at it as if Michigan wins, that's probably the best thing for this company, just being honest with you. If Washington wins, they win their first natty. I can't wait for this football game. With it not being easy, though, to trade up for a quarterback, could the Raiders draft Michael Penix Jr.? Could the Raiders draft a J.J. McCarthy? I don't think that either one of those guys deserves to go in round 1, and if you're picking at 11 and the Raiders pick Michael Penix, J.J., or Bo Nix at 11, I would be so pissed off. I'm telling you right now, I've watched a lot of bad picks in the Raiders' first round. If one of those 3 quarterbacks goes at 11, I will be as angry as I was when the Raiders drafted Alex Leatherwood in round 1, or as angry as I was when the Raiders drafted Henry Ruggs at 12 because I wanted CeeDee Lamb, or when the Raiders drafted frickin' Damon Arnett at 19. That's how angry I will be if Penix, Bo Nix, or McCarthy were to go to the Raiders at number 11. But when you look at these both quarterbacks, I mean, to me, Penix has done a phenomenal job since going to Washington, right? Like, he has. He's done a phenomenal job. He's got 2 ACL injuries, and I do think that the medical is going to be his biggest red flag at the combine. But here's the one thing you can't deny. He has gotten better and better, and man, oh man, did he look unbelievable against Texas. 28 of 38, 430 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But the thing that I was impressed by, I know he's accurate. I know he can throw it all over the football field. It was his pocket awareness. His pocket awareness was some of the best that I have seen at the college football level, at that level. It was really, really special. And I'm excited to see what he's able to do against a very good Michigan defense. Here's the other thing, though. With all these rumors around Harbaugh, could Harbaugh potentially bring in his guy, McCarthy? We also talk about quarterback play and, wins and losses. This dude has won a lot of football games. However, I do view him as a little bit more of a game manager, and he's had a good last 2 seasons, has won a lot of football games, and sometimes, you got to give credit where credit's due. Guy came up clutch, and I don't always know if clutch is you can't teach clutch, right? Some players, when they're in that huddle, everybody believes in him. And McCarthy, every single person on that Michigan huddle, they believed in him. 17 to 27, 221 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions up against Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide in a monstrous game where Michigan was down 20 to 13 with about 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They made a comeback. Those are the type of intangibles that I do look for in a QB. But here's my question, though. Top 3 quarterbacks are off the board. You don't want to trade for a guy. Who would you rather look at? Would you rather go out and get the Michigan quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, or would you rather roll with Washington's guy in Michael Penix Jr.? If you're going to go with J.J., type J.J. If you're going to go with Michael Penix, I want you to type MP. For me at Chugs, we are in agreement, and mostly everyone here watching the show is in agreement. Michael Penix Jr. is the better answer. Some, though, would say Penix. To me, I think J.J. is a game manager. He's a good quarterback. He's a good athlete. Probably a better runner than what Michael is, but to me, Michael is a superior thrower, and I don't know if it's all that close to me. Now, if you liked what you saw on today's show, hey, remember, I also do a lot of stuff on social media, Instagram, Twitter. I'm always just trying to give you guys my opinion because whether some of you like it or not, it is my job, but I also like to be able to interact with the nation. A lot of times the easiest place to do that is on social media, and over the weekend, I'm not going to lie to you, I had a pretty tough weekend. The Renz family took a massive hit, but being able to go online, I went on IG, I went on Twitter, I talked to the nation, helped me get through a pretty dark weekend. I'm not going to lie to y'all. So shout out to everybody that interacted with me. But hey, you want to ask me more questions? Maybe I wasn't able to get to them on live. Hit me up, IG, Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365. All right, Chugs, I want you to ask the nation who they got. Give a few shout-outs. I got one more jersey to change into, one more segment. Then we're going to do the 50-50 raffle. So if you don't already know, $10 Venmo to get in.
Let's go. Let me know who you got in this matchup. You going with the Huskies. Do you like them Husky? Type W. Or you going with the big blue of Michigan? Type M. Now, I know there's a lot of crossover. I know there's a lot of Raider fans on the West Coast. Maybe a little Northwest action. Maybe close to Oregon. Maybe close to Washington. People in Washington who are also Raider fans. I know you're typing your W's, but try to be non-biased here. Who are you going with, Washington or Michigan? I mean, honestly, from the semifinal games, not a lot to go off of like, oh, this team's definitely going to win, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I mean, both games were pretty close, very close. Came down to the very last play of both games. So, I don't know. Michigan took down Alabama, which is kind of the boogeyman of college football. I'm thinking more Michigan because I think Washington was able to kind of expose Texas a little bit with how well they played, and I do think Michigan's defense is a little bit better than Texas's defense. I like their cornerbacks. That Will Johnson kid.
Michigan's corners are much better than
Texas. Available this year in this year's draft. Next year in that draft, I think he's eligible. Yeah. He will be a first-round talent if he continues to play the way he does. If you watched him against the Alabama receivers, Will Johnson, fantastic.
Yeah, this game to me is very hard to wrap my mind around because I do think if Michigan gets the early lead and they can just pin their ears back, get after Michael Penix and rely on that running game.
I didn't even think of this connection until I saw Jordan Jimenez. He says, I'm going with Woodson's team. I mean, connections with both sides here. You got Charles Woodson, Michigan. You got the guys on the West Coast who might be in Washington, might be Husky fans. Might want to get one more last hurrah for the Pac-12.
I mean, next year this is a Big Ten matchup.
Yeah?
It's kind of insane.
I mean, imagine Washington wins last time a Pac-12 team can win the college football playoff.
I mean, it just doesn't even seem right. Washington and the Big Ten, that just doesn't even make sense to me. I'm not going to like all this realignment, but, it is what it is. All right, Angel Ananya in. Benjamin Bailey, you in. And then Daniel Hernandez, you in. If you're like, Mitch, what the hell are you in for? $10 Venmo, Mitchell Renz, 365 for a chance to win a little bit of money. Right now, 10 would win you $65. We're going to do a duck race, literally a race at the end of today's show, to decide who ends up winning the money. I like it. First duck race of 2024. We got to do it a little bit different. First duck race of 2024. I'm excited for it. Also, I just realized that Stewart put in for 2. So now, actually, you'd win $70. Shout out to Stewart. Good luck to you.
Nico says I'm always in.
Always in, though. Nico's had a little bit of a dry spell. I still like to think, though, Nico's up. Nico's got to still be up.
Yeah.
Right?
Nico keeps it up.
Nico keeps it up.
We do have a couple of super chats to get to really quick before we start our next segmente.
I like it.
Raider Muerte won my first ever fantasy Super Bowl.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
man.
Let's go.
I was basically the number 1 seed in all my leagues, and I lost in the first round of all of them.
Raider Muerte.
Devastating.
What was your team name? Most important part of fantasy.
Most important part?
Yeah. If you don't have a good team name, then it's not even worth it.
Well, what do you subscribe by? Do you subscribe by, like, are you the guy that wants, like, I don't know, 2 a girls, 1 cup type of name, or are you like my
2020 I changed my team name to Only Fans in the Stadium.
I like it. That's a good one. I like that one. See, my family league, I just named my team after my dad, but my team logo is a picture of my dad that I was able to Photoshop in the Borat costume. Besides that, though, I don't really do team names. Though my team name in the league here was Chuck the Rev.
I try to either I try to do something weird and funny, or I'll try to do something with my actual team. This year, obviously, I got close to last place in my league because my team name franchise tagged my first 2 picks, Saquon and Josh Jacobs.
Yikes.
Because I was like, you know what? Both on, contract years. They're going to want to show out, get a big contract next year. Obviously, I have no idea what I'm talking about, and you should never take any of my advice.
My usual go-to name for fantasy sports, when I was a kid, it was Blumpkin Donuts. But then when I got older, it turned. I know we say this all the time as a joke on the show. It used to be Dirty Mitch and the Boys. Like, it was always Dirty Mitch and the Boys. Shout out if you get it. Arlen, what's up, Arlen? I just realized you sent that in, so I picked up your jersey. I've been wearing the jersey all day. Arlen, cheers to you, man. Happy Tuesday. We beat the Donkeys on Sunday. Wearing my jersey, loving it. Raiders! Arlen, you a real one, man. Happy New Year to you and your fam. Let's go to the next one. Rolling in here from Oscar. If we get Penix Jr., we need to grab some tough-ass offensive linemen. Man, there's a lot of giggities in here. But I totally agree with you. And, here's the one thing that people don't talk about nearly enough. If you're going to go out and you're going to get somebody like a Michael Penix Jr.
Dude, if we get Penix, we're going to need to grab some tough ass.
The question is, do you put Colton Miller then at right tackle? Because Colton Miller, you want your best tackle protecting the blind side. Penix's blind side is going to be on the right side. So to me, you got to be able to figure out, there's 2 really good tackles in the draft, right? Like if the Raiders were to start out their draft with Olu from Penn State or Joe Walt or even what the hell is his name from Alabama, JC, I think is his name. I can't think of it. The offensive tackle from Bama. Do you put those guys on the left, then you kick Colton Miller over to the right side? Because that's going to be a major conversation that teams are going to have to do if they decide to go out and get Penix.
Mask said Munford is ready.
Munford took a step back this past week. I have no I'll tell you this: if you want to put Thayer Munford as Michael Penix's blind side option, that's a disaster. Like that to me is maybe one of the worst case scenarios for the Raiders because Munford's done a good job this season against the run. He's been bad against the pass. He's had one good game against the Chargers, but then again, I don't know what I can sample from the Chargers game. I thought he did an okay job also against Kansas City. I'll give him a little bit of love there, but If you're relying on Munford to protect your blind side of your QB, like a guy like Michael Penix, that's a disaster. Tank, we should ask Devontae and Max what QB we should get. We should. And apparently we did it last year, but it didn't matter because McDaniels is an ass and just does whatever the hell he wants.
I agree with Devontae. Max,
I would ask Max just for his opinion because he's the face of your franchise. Just from a leadership standpoint, where
if you're about to get Jayden Daniels and Max Crosby's gonna be like, no.
I'll tell you this right now. There's a lot of important players that y'all love very much that they want Justin Fields. Like I said, I did the one show where there were people saying that players that wanted Fields over any quarterback in the draft. Like, that's the other part where we'll start getting into that in the offseason. That I do think, even though I want the Raiders to trade up and get a QB in the draft, there's a lot of people on that roster that do not want that. Let's go to Raider Nation 80. Thank you, man, for supporting the show. Happy New Year to you. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. OC, I won 1 out of 4 of my fantasy football leagues. Winning team name was Ridley's Chupacabras. Chupacabras. Oh, that's that. No, I might be pushing some buttons here. Do you believe in chupacabras?
Of course.
Of course? Okay. Yeah, Alex's family's big believers, but they don't believe in Loch Ness or Bigfoot.
Very often mistaken with Rancho Cucamonga.
Honestly, it's a great sauce at this restaurant that I've been to. Sounds phenomenal. OC Raider, before the end of the season, you looked really cold on New Year's Eve. OC, I've actually worn your jersey before, so I wore it. I think I wore it last week. I know I wore it. I know I've worn the jersey before, but I'm pretty sure I wore it.
Because it's backwards?
What?
You flipped it?
No.
I was going to say your little tool of how to...
Oh. No, I wore the OC Raider jersey. I just don't remember which show it was on. I'm pretty sure it was last week sometime, though. Let's go to John Jones.
John Bones.
Who should we get for offensive coordinator this offseason? So if you guys want to go check out a video that I made, I did put out this video. I'll put it for you guys real quick here in the comments.
ITK Raider Snake says, I'll take Fields as a backup. You're going to trade a second and a third for a backup quarterback?
Yeah, you're not going to get Fields as a backup. But if you want to go click on that link, you can click the link. I made a video when the Raiders obviously moved on from Mick Lombardi. I made OC candidates list for next season. Go check it out. I will say it's a little bit of an older list just because of when I made it, but there's still a lot of good names on there that you can consider to be the next Raiders OC.
You got to pick between these 3 guys.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco, Tyson Bagent.
Baker.
Kirk Cousins.
I guess I'll say that. I think Baker this offseason, I think Baker gets a deal very similar to what Jimmy Garoppolo got this past offseason, where they give him $20, $25 million a year. That's the other thing. Kirk Cousins coming off of popped Achilles. Are you going to give Kirk Cousins coming off of popped Achilles $40 million? Because if the answer to that is no, you ain't getting Kirk Cousins.
ITK says Fields doesn't have it, but then he also wants Joe Flacco.
Nico says Kirk easy. Again, are you going to pay Kirk $40 million? Because to me, that's what he's going to ask for. Like if a guy like Daniel Jones is getting $40 million a year, if a guy like Derek Carr is getting $37 million, Kirk Cousins walks into that room and he goes, I'm not taking anything less than 40. Yeah, I get it. He's got a popped Achilles, but guess what? He's not going to take anything less than 40. Glad to know you got the jersey, Mitch. Yeah, OC Raider 82, right? 82. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I wore it last week. Fantasy name was Maximum Pressure. I like it. With the same photo I just changed my profile pic to. Yes, that is Max Crosby in the viewing part. So Max is inside that sub. I'm not going to lie. I'm really hungry right now. Sub sounds gas. A sub right now sounds absolutely
You know what I haven't had in a minute?
Let's hear it.
Meatball sub.
A meatball sub. So here's my question to you, because when I eat a meatball sub, I actually like it sweet. I've had a sweet sauce meatball sub before.
Like not marinara.
The marinara sauce it's like sweet though. Like sweet. Amazing. Just try it once. Hear me out. Try it
Like
once.
I think marinara is usually kind of sweet, but like are you talking like you're like saying like
Have
it's
you ever
very sweet?
Have you ever had sweet sauce pizza?
I mean, yeah, like where the pizza sauce is like more on the sweet side, yeah.
No, I'm talking like sweet sauce pizza. Like where it's sweet.
No.
Try it. Just try it once.
I don't even know where to get sweet sauce pizza.
All right, how about this? The next time you make meatballs, take your sauce container, okay, and then add like Splenda, sugar, or like a honey or like a hot, like spicy honey, sweet, spicy, something like that.
I mean, I put hot honey on my pizza. That's good.
So think about that on a marinara sub.
So just hot honey on it?
Just try it one time. Yeah, tell me what you think. I like, when I eat meatball subs now, I like it sweet. It's pretty good.
I've had that before, Jerry Kreischer. The meatballs with grape jelly and chili sauce mixed in.
That sounds good. That sounds really good. I do think, like, once the offseason starts again, once the offseason starts, as Jeremy and I, especially like May, June, and July, we get into a lot more shenanigans, if you will. One of the things that I do want to do more of this offseason is two things. One, obviously I want to do more food reviews where, you know, you guys give us stuff to review. The other thing that I want to do, I don't want to forget it because I've been wanting to say this on like 2 shows.
Do it.
Whatever beers you guys love from like your hometowns, right? If you're like, hey, Mitch, I would love to send you a 6-pack of beer for you and Jeremy to drink on, because we'll start getting into our like Friday happy hour shows again. Not anytime soon, but once the season's over, we'll get into our Friday happy hour shows. But what I want to do is like, all right, Nico Laz wants to send me a 6-pack of the beer that he drinks when Chugs and I do our thing. Or maybe there's a beer that you really like from a brewery near you. Send it to us. Like, I want to do more of that kind of stuff and create special deals around what you guys want us to do on the show around food, drinks. Like Sierra Nevada from Ron Raspberry.
Yeah.
Imagine doing a Sierra Nevada boot.
Dude, in Vegas.
Done.
In Vegas, this
cooked.
There's this movie called Chef.
Ballast Point.
I don't know if you've ever seen it.
What is it?
It's a movie called Chef.
Chef? No.
It's a guy and he like gets a food truck and he like takes his son around and stuff. Whatever. But like the famous part of the movie is they make these Cubans that look bomb. Well, the makers of the movie just opened up like a mock food truck. It's just stationary in Vegas, making the same Cubans they made on the movie.
That's really cool.
And it looks the exact same, and it's like the exact same recipe and everything they made while they made the Cuban on the movie. They just opened up a Cuban shop, like a sub shop in Vegas.
Dude, that sounds really cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that's like low key. Like Alex, for New Year's, they do this thing where I don't know if you guys do this. Maybe it's a Mexican culture thing, but they give you grapes, and every time you make like a New Year's resolution, you have to end up eating a grape before like you make your wish or like whatever you're hoping happens in the new year. One of the things was I would love to be able to do is like a diners, drive-ins, and dives for like Raiders Report. That would be awesome. What up, Shane? I agree with you, Mitch. Raiders need a franchise quarterback. I feel that if we had a franchise QB when AP took over, we would have made the playoffs. I mean, the way that I evaluate the Raiders is I evaluate the Raiders of where they are now compared to where they were when you had Josh McDaniels. It's light years better. I don't care what anybody says. But I also agree that I don't really think it's fair to evaluate Antonio Pierce when he's a defensive-minded guy. And the Raiders' defense was really good before Antonio Pierce took over. Now it's been arguably a top 3 defense in the NFL, right? So, like, I want, when people evaluate Antonio Pierce, I want them to evaluate the defensive side of the football. Because the offensive side was supposed to be McDaniels' side, right? And you still have all these coaches that McDaniels brought in. You have an offense that McDaniels created. I get he's still not the guy there. But that's why hiring the next OC is going to be monumental if you want to keep AP. Like, I'm not going to evaluate AP based off the Raiders' offense being terrible.
Quick
It's not
question.
what I'm going to evaluate.
I see it from Robert Jansen in the chat. I think it's a pretty good question.
Okay.
You can only pick one.
Yep.
Cuban or Reuben?
Man. If I could only pick one, I think the sandwich that's more consistent that I like is a Cuban. However, there's There's this one spot in New York that my dad and I used to always go to when I was a kid, and they made a really awesome Reuben. But I'd probably go from a consistency standpoint a Cuban.
I think I would lose my Jew card if I didn't choose Reuben.
I mean, no.
I got to go with the Reuben.
You gotta?
Yeah, I mean, I love Cubans. But a Reuben?
Yeah.
Reuben hits.
Oh, dude.
Like, when it's like really good bread, they have a good sauerkraut in there.
See, I like
good
sauerkraut.
Mustard.
I like sauerkraut, but again, I think you got good sauerkraut's hard to find. And that's the biggest decider. Like, if you're just taking sauerkraut right out of the can and throwing that on there, that's going to be a disaster. Let's go to Isaiah McDaniel. What's your drawback on Michael Penix Jr.? What holds me back is his injury history. I agree with that. Can make every throw mobile, mentally mature, long college career with a lot of adversity, and only gets better. Hot take, if healthy, he's my QB1B. I mean, if that's going to be your hot take, I do think it's a hot take. To me, I look at a quarterback and their overall build, and the injury history scares me, but it's not even so much what I have against Michael Penix. It's just I like Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake Maye just so much more. On top of that, I do wonder if NFL teams are when they look at quarterbacks, and again, Penix is not even close to the size of what Bryce Young is, but he's not a big QB by any stretch of the imagination, right? And like injuries, they can really flare up. He's 24 years old. I don't want to invest a first-round pick in a QB that has the injury red flags that Penix does have. On top of that, Washington's offensive line is the best offensive line in college football. You have, I would say, the best receiving core in college football. And what I don't want to happen, and again, they're not similar prospects to me, but they do kind of remind me of each other in the idea of everybody loved Mac Jones coming out of college because he was able to make all the throws. He was able to do everything that you just said there. And sure, Mac Jones wasn't mobile. However, though, when you have Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and
Devonta Smith
as your receivers, like, you're going to look a lot better. And, like, yes, Penix can make a lot of throws. He made a lot of really, really impressive throws, but his receivers are also getting open, right? Like, he knows every time he drops back, one guy's getting open. Ryan Grubb has done a phenomenal job there in Washington. That also holds me back a little bit.
Yep. Sir Chai, Harbaugh as coach, AP as defensive co-assistant coach. Yeah, I mean, that'd be a hard sell. Like, hey, you're the head coach now. Do you mind being the co-defensive assistant coach?
I actually think it's a harder sell for Harbaugh. If you're going to bring in a guy like Jim Harbaugh, and this is what people don't get, you bring in a guy like Jim Harbaugh, you're saying goodbye to Antonio Pierce, you're saying probably goodbye to Patrick Graham, and you're handing everything over to Harbaugh. It's not that I don't like Harbaugh, okay? But if you want to keep Patrick Graham as your DC, you probably have to keep Antonio Pierce. And to me, I want the Raiders to keep Patrick Graham for that reason. I'll say this, though. If anybody listened to Patrick Graham speak today to the media, I liked a lot of the things that he said. In fact, let me see here exactly what he said. I tweeted it out. He said, I'm not trying to get emotional, but I've had the most fun coaching this group of guys than any I've had in my whole career. It's been a real fun year. I'm proud to be a part of the Raiders. But when you listen to it, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there and I'm going back. I'm listening to it. I was trying to type it out for my tweet. And it sounded like a goodbye. It really did to me. Like, he was emotional. He was upset. And he's going to get head coaching interviews, which is, I made a video 2 weeks ago and people had a meltdown. They're like, why would the Raiders move on from Patrick Graham? If he gets a head coaching job, he's going to take it. In fact, I think the Raiders should interview Patrick Graham to be the head coach.
Yeah. Robert, and Marshall would agree with this. He said the clubby over both.
Like a turkey club?
The club sandwich is like turkey, ham, and bacon, I believe. Potbelly was your clubby.
I mean, my favorite type of sandwich that I would order from a place like that is probably like the Italian.
That you used to get? Potbelly.
Like an Italian sandwich. That's usually what I like to go with. Mitch, yes, Marshall's home.
Nico.
Give me the gabagoo.
I'll take the gabagoo.
I'll take the gabagoo. I mean, that's probably the one thing I miss probably the most about being down here. I love food down here in Texas. I love Tex-Mex. Like, I love all the food. But like a
not
good
gabagoo?
Well, I think sandwich shops up northeast are better. Like a good delicatessen, like a good sandwich shop, elite. Also, when I tell people this down here, like imagine getting a sandwich from a gas station. Would you ever get a sandwich from a gas station down here not called Buc-ee's?
Oh.
Not called Buc-ee's.
QT is okay.
Okay. That's the thing. Like up north, man, like Wawa, Sheetz. What's the other one called? It's green. It's in New Jersey a lot. Quick Trip? That doesn't sound right. Is Quick Trip down here?
Yeah, that's what QT.
All right, that's not it then. It's something else. It's green. I can't think of the name of it. Very, very good. All right, y'all, let's get into the final segment here on the Raiders Report. Quick Check. That's it. Shout out to Zahn. I was going to say, I knew it was Quick. Quick Check, also very good.
Let me know down in the chat. Oh, Marshall said this is what the clubby that he eats.
And you put it in there?
The sandwich features roasted turkey breast, applewood smoked bacon, hickory smoked ham, provolone cheese topped with buttermilk ranch, lettuce, and tomato.
The only reason why he eats that is because it's buttermilk ranch. It's the only reason. It's the only one. It's the only reason.
The reason we can't recreate that is because they won't let you add ranch to the sandwich online.
Can't you get it on the side?
It's always better when they do it for you.
Let me know down in the chat, what's your favorite sandwich? What is whenever you're going to get a sub or a sandwich from somewhere, what is your go-to order? Mitch?
Say that again?
What's your go-to sandwich?
The Italian. Like if I had to go like a safe pick that's like a cold sub, I would say the Italian. I mean, you know how I'm kind of like you are, where if I go to a sandwich shop, I'll try something that I've never had before. Like, what's like your specialty? I'll go that route. If I want to go safe though, the Italian. Whatever the Italian is, that's what I'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I like club, but I usually go with a turkey bacon.
That's a safe one. Like I would have never ordered that Thanksgiving sandwich from Mendo if it wasn't for you. And but that's why I like to try, or like that other pastrami and peach one that they had.
Oh.
Like I like trying stuff that I'm like, dude, that sounds nuts. Let's give it a shot.
Let's
give it a shot.
That Thanksgiving sandwich they made, absolute gas.
Dude. Oh, that was that's one of the best sandwiches I've ever had. I'm not even kidding you. What do you got?
Huh? Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Oh, yeah. What's your go-to sandwich when you go somewhere?
I think people sleep on
Corned beef. I like a good corned beef.
Interesting.
like same thing as pastrami, like very similar.
Sorry, I like pastrami. I got to be in like the mood for it. And you
Corned
can
beef and sauerkraut.
Monte Cristo, I feel like that's always a heavy dish. Like the idea of a Monte Cristo I love, but then whenever you get it, it's like a full fried sandwich. I'm like, I don't know.
I'm not a tuna milk guy.
Oh, yeah.
Lemon cookies.
Hey, there's a lot of Philly cheesesteaks in here.
Oh,
We got a Philly bull in the office. No cheese whiz. You go provolone. American wit. That's with grilled onions.
Yep.
Okay. A little hot pepper on the side.
Oh, see, I
Where do you get it from?
want green.
Where do you get it from? Geno's? Tony Luke's and D'Alessandro's, not Geno's.
No, they're overrated.
Ah.
That's overrated.
Oh, a good French dip is really good as well. All right, let's get into
I'll
this
say
next
you guys
segment.
are making me hungry as a mother.
French dip on a hot day, F me up.
I can get on board with that. One of the best, I know, this will be the last thing we talk about food, and then we'll talk about Russell Wilson. I had a sandwich that was French dip inspired, but it was a French onion soup sandwich. So it was literally French onion soup with French dip, like sandwich style, and you dipped it into the French onion.
I'm a sucker.
Unbelievable.
I'm a sucker for on a cold day a really good grilled cheese with tomato soup.
Yeah. A little bacon in there, a little tomato. I like bacon and tomato on mine, but
I like bacon and tomato on mine.
I
as
like
well.
mine with lettuce and tomato. All right, let's talk about Russell Wilson here. Should the Raiders sign Wilson next season? That's going to be the topic of discussion coming up here on the Raiders Report. Let me know down in the comments, yes or no. Chugs, you ready? You guys ready? Let's get this thing going right now. Nation, I need you to be honest with me. Should the Las Vegas Raiders sign Russell Wilson next season? Yes or no? Every single person, I need to know what you're thinking down in the comments. Coming up here on today's Raiders Report show, my answer to this question. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And when I started this show, I wanted to be able to create healthy conversations because I'm looking at the live chat right now, and everybody is saying this video better be only 60 seconds and it better be a big fat no. But here's the problem. Laying out all the reasons why they should and why they shouldn't is very important for the Las Vegas Raiders, and that's exactly why. That's what you're going to get on today's show. I am going to lay out why it does make sense for the Raiders and why it doesn't make sense for the Raiders. And if you're somebody that's sitting here watching right now and you go, Mitch, it doesn't make any sense, there's no way that you can tell me that, I am willing to bet y'all. I am willing to bet y'all a beer bong that if you said no, watching this show, no way that by the end of the show you're going to go, oh, all right, if I can stick it to the Broncos, I might be in. Now, if you don't know what the hell is going on with Russell Wilson, maybe you live underneath a rock, all the reports indicate that Denver is going to be moving on from Russ. They benched him in Week 17. Obviously, Wilson was not very happy about that, and all the reports do indicate that Denver will be moving on from him. It's kind of just like the whole Derek Carr situation that the Raiders have, and funny enough, Jarrett Stidham also gets the start for Denver as well. But it's going to be an $85 million dead cap hit to cut Russell Wilson. So if you want to know how much Sean Payton doesn't like Russ, there you go. $85 million in dead cap to cut him. And it's going to end up happening. So with Payton clearly not liking Russ, and the reason why they have to do this is because if he's on the roster by March 17, 2024, then $37 million for 2025 becomes fully guaranteed. And if he ends up getting hurt, well, guess what? He can't pass his physical, and then he's on the roster, and then he's going to be on the hook, and Sean Payton just doesn't want to have to deal with Russell Wilson anymore. If Wilson gets cut, and when he gets cut, he is going to be the top free agent quarterback in 2024. At the time that I'm making this video, the Raiders picked number 11 in the 2024 NFL Draft, and if you don't want to have to trade 3 first-round picks to get the number 1 pick, or you don't want to have to trade a boatload of picks, multiple firsts to try to get a Jayden Daniels, a Caleb Williams, a Drake Maye, if you don't want to trade for a guy like Justin Fields, or you don't want to trade for a guy like Kyler Murray, you want to go a cheaper option, then a lot of people should honestly look this Russell Wilson destination, who, believe it or not, is actually not having that bad of a year. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, over 3,000 yards, and from a career standpoint, he's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame. Yes? No? It's definitely a discussion, but the bottom line is this. Not many quarterbacks like Russell Wilson hit the free agency market. Yeah, I get it. He's 35 years old. He had a bad year in 2022, but maybe that has to do more with the way that the Broncos were constructed, and maybe it's because your head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, because underneath Sean Payton looks totally different. When he was with the Seattle Seahawks, I think everybody would have said he was a top 10 quarterback. So it's really hard to find quarterbacks with this much talent on the market. On top of that, the Raiders want, right, like somebody that can move around a little bit. He is a mobile quarterback. So coming up here, I'm going to tell you why it makes sense for the Raiders to pursue Russell Wilson if, in fact, the Denver Broncos decide to cut him. If you want more quarterback videos, I know this, man. I know I make videos every day. I know I'm going to talk about free agency. We're going to talk about the draft. We are going to talk more about quarterbacks this offseason probably than we've ever had, man. And that's saying a lot from this channel because we've talked about DC quite a bit. Hell, somebody the other day on Instagram asked me, Mitch, are you a Marvel or DC fan? I said Marvel because I can't talk about DC anymore. We're going to talk a lot about quarterbacks this offseason. If you want to stay in tune, hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get into here why the Raiders should at least go after Russell Wilson. He's an upgrade over Aiden O'Connell. If you can legitimately look me in the eyes, and this show is about honesty, right? Like, the reason why I say that the nation's my family is because I step up here every single day and I give you my honest opinion. And if I were to sit here and look at my family members in the eye and lie to them, I would think that that's pretty damn shady, right? And anybody, and I get it, you want to be a Raider fan, I get Russ as a Bronco, F the Broncos, F Sam, I'm all about it. But if you honestly think that Aiden O'Connell's a better quarterback than Russell Wilson, get your head out of your ass. Like, you can dislike Russ. I don't like Russell Wilson. He's one of the most dislikable guys in the NFL. I don't disagree with that. But he is light years better than Aiden O'Connell. for the love of God. Like, Aiden's not even top 32. Russell Wilson's a top 16 quarterback. Russell Wilson is a better quarterback than Derek Carr, if you want to throw out that name at me, because from what I have seen, no, that's not accurate. From what I have seen from Aiden this season, he's got one good game against the Chargers and played okay this past week against Indy. Besides that, it's been a nightmare, and I get it. He's dealing with Bo Hardinger. He's dealing with the Josh McDaniels offense. He's still only a rookie. But, Mitch, if you give him time to marinate, I don't got time to marinate. I'm trying to find a quarterback this offseason, and I'm not going into next season with Aiden O'Connell. Let's go to the next reason here. You get to keep your draft capital. If he ends up getting cut, you can sign him. So if you can sign him, that means you don't have to trade away any big-name players. You don't have to give up maybe that second or third for what it would cost to get a Justin Fields. You don't have to trade 3 first-round picks to try to get a Caleb Williams or Drake Maye. You don't got to trade 2 firsts and maybe a second-round pick and some change to get a guy like Jayden Daniels. You can keep your draft capital, and you can build, which right now looks to be a pretty damn good team. And, like, I look at the Raiders right now, their defense playing top 5 in the NFL. You got a hell of a running game when healthy. Your offensive line doesn't get nearly enough credit. You got one of the best receiving cores in the NFL. And I'll tell you what, right now, I think that this team could be a quarterback away from competing if your defense plays the way that you did. So imagine you have Russell Wilson as your starting quarterback, then Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Michael Mayer, a good offensive line, and a top 5 defense. I mean, I'll say this. Russell Wilson, last time he won a Super Bowl was with the top 5 defense in Seattle. Like, I know he's a cornball. I know he's a weirdo. He's not an easy guy to root for. But the Raiders do have a legit NFL team together right now. And if you don't want to give up all the draft capital, and if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you should circle Russell Wilson. So coming up next here is the number one reason, the biggest reason why it would make sense. And when I started this show out, I said that for anybody saying no, I'll bet you a beer bong. And I will. I'll stick to that. I will bet you something, because if I tell you what's coming up next and you still say no, then you're just being ignorant. You can be ignorant. That's fine. I get it. He's a Bronco. He's Russ. I don't like him either. But if it helps out the Raiders and it's a gut punch to a division rival, man, that's something that I think a lot of people are going to like. I'll tell you what it is, but first I got to tell you about Prize Picks. I know Buddy Bear hanging out with Choco Bear and Roxy. They're probably getting their picks in for all the Sunday slate games, maybe even a little Saturday slate. This weekend, I can't wait for. I'm going to get a little dabbling in Saturday games. I'm going to do a little dabbling on Sunday, and I'm definitely going to be putting some money down on the National Championship game with Prize Picks. And if you want to get started, it's easy. All you got to do is pick 2+ players, choose more or less. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS to make sure that you use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. My picks for this week, I'm going to go Baker Mayfield more than 223.5 passing yards going up against Carolina, who stinks. C.J. Stroud, less than 270.5. Interdivision game, I think Indy's going to show up there. And then C.D. Lamb, give me the more, going up against the Commanders, one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense in the National Football League. And if I end up getting this, guess what? I put down 10. I got a chance to win $50. That's pretty darn good if you ask me. So again, if you want a chance to watch some football games, but also have an opportunity to make a little bit of money, to me, I look at Prize Picks as a win-win opportunity. Not too often in today's day and age can you put down $10, occupy yourself for 3 hours, with a chance to win $50. So if you're like, you know what, Mitch? Sold. If they're the number one daily fantasy app for a reason, go give it a shot, but make sure that they know that we sent you from the Raiders Report. And the only way to do that is by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS. Here's the final reason of why the Raiders should consider getting Russell Wilson. If the Raiders sign Russell Wilson, you can really, really screw over the Broncos. Are you interested? Well, listen up. Here's how Russ can screw Denver. And, you know, it's kind of similar-ish-y to where Derek Carr had the no-trade clause, and because the Raiders were forced to cut him, the Raiders didn't get any draft capital. It kind of stuck it to him a little bit. Well, here's the thing with Russ, okay? There's the report out there that obviously the Broncos could cut him, and if Russell's willing to take the vet minimum in 2024, so this conversation only stems from the idea of the Raiders getting Russell Wilson at $1.21 million. The moment that Russ gets cut, he gets paid, right? The moment he gets cut, $89 million going to his bank account, which pretty good. Now, some of you are like, why would the hell would the Broncos do that? Well, if they cut him, yeah, it's an $89 million dead cap hit. However, they do free up $37 million in cash. People like to talk about Mark Davis all the time, cash, right? Here's the thing, though. The Broncos also get a credit for Wilson's earnings in 2024. So hypothetically, I mean, Russ is still going to make $89 million essentially, right, in 2024. And the Broncos get a credit. So whatever amount Russell decides to sign with to that team in 2024, the Broncos, because of his contract, get a credit. So if Russell Wilson signs a $30 million deal to go play for the Raiders, then the Broncos also get a $30 million credit in 2024. If Russ wants to say, hey, Denver, F you, you're still going to pay me all this money, and he's still technically on a per-year basis going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. But if Russ says, you know what, pay me of the vet men, let's build a Super Bowl caliber team at $1.21 million, and then the Broncos in 2024 only get $1.21. The number one way that Russell Wilson can screw over Denver, and a way that the Raiders would be able to screw over Denver too, is you get their quarterback at $1.21 million. You save all your draft capital. You save a bunch of money in free agency, and a team that right now I think a lot of people view as being a quarterback away from winning the Super Bowl. You get a legit top 15 QB at $1.21 million, and you get to screw over the Broncos. Like, I will admit, the only way that I am interested in this is if I'm getting Russell Wilson for that Bettman. That's the only way. And you get to screw over Denver. I'll tell you this right now. I know some people are still saying, no way, no way, no way. I hear you. But what if you can't trade up to get one of those top quarterbacks? What if, Justin Fields goes somewhere else? I know this. You can't roll with Aiden O'Connell again next season. So how about this? Let's have a little bit of fun here, because these are some of the quarterbacks that I've been talking a lot about on this show. And Aiden O'Connell, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Let's just say these were your only three options at QB, because whoever the next head coach is says, you know what, I'm not going to give up all that draft capital. We're not going to do it. We're not going to give up multiple first-round picks to go get a guy. So you're either going to roll with Aiden O'Connell again, you're either going to roll with Russell Wilson, or you're going to roll with Justin Fields, and you're only going to trade a second and a third-round pick, because according to ESPN, the consensus in an informal poll of league evaluators is that Fields would be worth a second or third-round pick in a pre-draft trade. So that is according to ESPN, and a bunch of people that work inside ESPN, NFL Insider, said that it's going to cost second or third. Cool. So you're not going to give up a first to get one of those top QBs in the draft. Awesome. So now you're going to either give up a second and third for Justin Fields, or you're going to sign Russell Wilson to a $1.21 million vet min, not give up any draft capital, screw over the Broncos, or you're going to roll with Aiden O'Connell again. For me, my answer is so damn simple on this one, because I would rather, okay, like the Raiders cannot go with they cannot go with Aiden O'Connell. That's all I know. I would rather the Raiders trade for Justin Fields than having Aiden O'Connell be the starting quarterback. I would rather the Raiders sign Russell Wilson to a vet minimum deal than to roll with Aiden O'Connell again. You cannot do that to your fan base. You can't do this to that team. Like, you can't do it. That's how I feel about those options there. Now, I do got to give a shout out to the Noti gang. And the Noti gang, man, still being able to pull up to the nation, even in the off season when essentially the games don't matter anymore. Believe me when I tell you this, it means a lot to me. Like, the fact that Carly's, Godzilla, Raider Sancho, Andrew, and Scar Oak are still pulling up. Hey, I tell you, man, it means the world to me. And if you're like, Mitch, how do I get a shout out on the show? How do I be a part of the Noti gang? All you got to do is this. Hit subscribe. Turn on your notifications. As soon as I drop a video, you get a notification on your phone, very similar when somebody sends you a text, maybe a booty call, whatever you're into. And then you go on that video and you try to be one of the very first people to comment. Believe it or not, helps me out a lot. So shout out to the Noti gang. All right, coming up next here is why the Raiders shouldn't target Wilson. Like, everything that I just said, that's not me sitting up here saying that I want Russell Wilson. But in order for me to do my job well, I do think it's important to paint the picture of why it makes sense and why it doesn't make sense. Instead of just saying no, or instead of just saying yes, let's have an educational discussion about it. Yes, no, here we go. First reason why you don't do it, he's not willing to take the vet min. I'm not dealing with Russell Wilson shenanigans if he's not willing to take the vet minimum deal. I already said at my piece about, personally, I'd rather you trade up, and that's kind of where this next one goes. If the Raiders say, I want a quarterback in the draft, love it. The only way I'm going to love it, though, is if you mean trading up to get a Jayden Daniels, Caleb Williams, or a Drake Maye. If you're able to get a Michael Penix Jr., a Bo Nix, J.J. McCarthy, like, again, I'm not targeting J.J. until round 3. Bo Nix, Penix, to me, are probably both second-round picks still in that regard. But if the Raiders we're drafting a QB, all right, cool, then you're not going to go out and get him. If the Raiders could trade for Justin Fields, if that report, which was a second and a third-round pick, right? If it was a second and a third-round pick, I would look at this situation as I'd say, again, yeah, I would rather the Raiders trade for Fields or sign Wilson before going back to AOC as the starter. But also, if it's only going to cost a second or a third-round pick for Justin Fields or signing Russell Wilson, I will take the third-round pick for Justin Fields over signing Russell Wilson. Hell, I might even do the second for Fields over signing Wilson. And the only reason why I say that is because I know the players inside that locker room want Fields. I don't think that they want Russell Wilson. And, my final point here is probably the biggest one. No more God guys. And some of y'all are like, Mitch, what the hell does that mean? Russell Wilson and Josh McDaniels, I think you could say both are God complex guys where they think that they are the best. They think that they walk on water. And you just did such a good job of getting rid of the cancer that was McDaniels, and you have a really strong locker room, right? Doesn't really make sense for the Raiders to keep Antonio Pierce as their head coach and then add a guy like Russell Wilson, who I think really could F up that locker room, could really F up a lot of the continuity that keeps that Raiders team together, right? I don't want another leader when they're in the huddle, people look at this guy and they go, this guy sucks. I can't afford to have that. You can't afford it. The Raiders can't afford to have that situation again. So financially, it could make some sense. But for my heart of hearts, right, it's really tough to put Russell Wilson on this team. However, though, it is just win, baby. It is commitment to excellence. And does Russell Wilson help you do that? Well, here's the thing. Should the Raiders sign Russell Wilson for next season? I asked you all this question at the start of the show. And my honest-to-God opinion in regards to whether or not the Raiders should do it is split into this. Yes, if Russell Wilson takes the vet minimum and the Raiders want to keep all of their draft capital and star players. You don't want to trade a Devontae Adams, but you still want to make sure that you can win a Super Bowl. Right now, you're trying to win this season. What if Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, they come up to you and they go, I want to win now mode. And I think that us winning now, Russell Wilson gives us a better chance of going out and trading all that capital. No, if the Raiders are going to trade up for a franchise QB or trade for Justin Fields. That's kind of how I sit on all of this. I would rather the Raiders trade for a franchise QB. I would rather the Raiders trade for Justin Fields. But then it's Russell Wilson because I would rather have Russell Wilson signed to a vet minimum deal instead of starting Aiden O'Connell again. That's where I sit on Russell Wilson potentially coming to the silver and black. So one more time here, a quick little recap. Why the Raiders should get Wilson. Upgrade over Aiden. You get to keep your draft capital. LV is a quarterback away from competing, and if you're able to add a quarterback at $1.21 million, you screw over Denver, and it helps out your overall team. And then here's why you shouldn't. If he's not willing to take the vet minimum deal, well, then I'm not even interested. If the Raiders want to draft a quarterback, I'm a happy camper. If the Raiders think, all right, we'll trade him for Fields because he's a better locker room guy than what Wilson is, cool, I'm on board. And then I just don't need more people like Josh McDaniels. And Russell Wilson is a quarterback that's just like Josh McDaniels. No more God complex guys. Now, I appreciate each and every one of y'all that tuned into today's show. Shout out to my guy, Buddy Bear, for always repping with us as well. If you don't know, we are going to be live on Thursday on top of that. Now, we used to do Thursday night football. Obviously, there's no Thursday night football this week. So what we're going to end up doing is doing a normal Thursday live show. I'm going to be live at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific here on the Raider Sports. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure those notifications are turned on because, well, it's Thirsty Thursday, just a little bit earlier in the day. Hopefully you guys all have an amazing new year. Hopefully we got some New Year's resolutions as well. And if you're watching this live, good luck to you. All right, Jeremy, pick a quarterback. Aiden, Russ, Justin Fields.
I don't know. ITK Raider Snake says Flacco.
That's insane. I know what Flacco's doing. I'm not doing. I mean, if I'm the Browns, I give Joe Flacco a $10 million deal to be a backup. Seriously. I would consider giving Joe Flacco a $10 million deal to be the backup, just in case Deshaun Watson gets hurt again. Or Deshaun does something else, because it's not out of the woods. I don't want Flacco. I know. Flacco would be tough. That would be a really tough one to wrap my mind around.
Out of these three, I think I might go Russ.
You might go Russ?
I mean, everybody in here obviously has their Raider shades on. They're not able to see Russell Wilson as just a free agent quarterback that's going to be possibly able to get him at the vet min.
I mean,
I think a lot of people have preconceived notions of Russell Wilson because he is corny. He plays for the Broncos.
Yep.
And he had a down year last year.
100%.
So I would go, out of these three, I would go with Russ, to be honest. You don't have to trade anything for him. You also screw over Denver.
Sure. If he signs the vet min.
If he signs the vet min.
Yep.
Hey,
I would rather have Russell Wilson as my starting quarterback than Aiden O'Connell next year.
Because
that pains me to say it.
I'll be honest. If you're saying, I want AP to be the head coach, I want Antonio Pierce, and you're saying we want to draft a quarterback, do you trust AP, not knowing who the offensive coordinator is, do you trust Antonio Pierce to groom a quarterback to get ready for the NFL? I don't. AP has no experience with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
There's nobody. You're Bo Hardigree? You're hoping if AP's the head coach that you get an amazing offensive coordinator that can groom a quarterback. But I mean, that's a lot of hope.
I'm looking at the chat right now. This is why I love the chat. Somebody says, give Flacco $15 million and no to Russ. So you would rather give Joe Flacco $15 million instead of bringing in Russell Wilson at 1.21?
And he was on crack.
I see somebody saying Kyler Murray. You're going to have to give up a lot to get Kyler. Plus, you're going to pay him $50 million a year.
I'm just saying, if you want AP to be the head coach,
Mr. Money.
I'm telling you, AP being head coach, the best thing you can do is Russell Wilson. Because if you draft a quarterback and AP's your head coach, you really think that he's going to put a rookie quarterback in the best position to win? I don't think so.
I don't like the idea
doing.
Of bringing in. The only way I'm okay you bring in Russ that's not at the vet min is if Devontae Adams says, hey, this guy gives us the best chances the QB I want.
I just don't see how you can be like.
My fear is that Russ is such a cornball and he's going to be such a mismatch in that locker room that by keeping AP, you're trying to keep that group of guys.
I think we're all thinking of Russ going to Denver, which is a very different person. Look, think of you 2 years ago. Are you nearly the same person that you were 2 years ago than you are today?
No, of course not.
So we're all looking at Russell Wilson 2 years ago going to Denver, the Mr. Invincible, doing jumping jacks on the plane last year.
But Russ also wasn't very liked in Seattle.
Yeah. But I mean, could you see him maybe changing a tone from being a guy who was traded for multiple first-round picks to now being cut by that team? I don't think he brings the same mentality or he's the same person coming from that than he is coming off being traded for 2 first-round picks.
I don't know.
It's the difference. You see it all the time in rookies. There's a big difference from guys who are rookies who are first-round picks than guys who are undrafted free agents coming into the league. Those guys have a chip on their shoulder. They're trying to prove something. Russ, rather than the first-round pick who thinks, this team needs me. This team is so happy to have me. I'm doing them a favor by being on this team.
Hey, yeah, I agree with Jeff. I don't think Russ changes for anybody. So,
what it is. Maybe not.
Russ ain't a Raider. Come on now. I don't disagree with that. But I also, being a Raider is about just win, baby, right? And Russ Wilson gives you a better chance to win than Aiden O'Connell. And if you don't think that, then you are insane to me, man. Insane to me. All right, not Raiders related, but we were talking about this the other day. Remember when we were talking about the Carolina Panthers owner throwing water or his drink on some guy? He just got fined $300,000. If you're the dude that he's looking right now at the NFL fining Tepper $300K, what do you think he's suing for? $300K or more? More?
Dude, I am going to my lawyer and saying,
you're getting minimum $300.
I'm going to my lawyer and saying, what is the most I can sue this guy for? Whatever he tells me, I'm saying add a 0. This dude's a billionaire.
Oh, I hear you.
A billionaire.
I hear you.
Dude, I'm like,
He's getting $300K.
You assaulted me and you're a billionaire? Yeah, I'm getting paid, bro.
I have headaches.
Just won the lottery.
I have headaches from that drink you threw on me.
Yeah, my neck, my back.
Oh, hey, I hear you, dude. I hear you.
Finish the lyrics.
Oh, and crack. All right, y'all, we got 900 people here in the building. If you haven't already, click that like button, and this is going to be your final opportunity to get in our first duck race of 2024. I'm going to refresh my phone after the race. I'm going to skedaddle on out of here. Let me see who's in. We got, I'm not going to lie, we got a few people that I have yet to get in. So the last time I saw was Daniel Hernandez. I got Chase Coe. You in?
My neck.
I got Adriano Martinez. You in? Buzz-O-Matic 69. You in again? I see Raymond. Raymond Sauce is what I'm going to call you there. Mr. Sauce.
Jay Ace said Colin Kaepernick hot and ready. Yeah, also maybe David Carr. Maybe Derek's older brother. Maybe he'll be ready.
I would rather Aiden O'Connell than Colin Kaepernick.
Well, I mean, you're talking about guys who haven't played a snap of NFL football in...
What were you doing in 2016?
I just graduated high school.
I'm either playing Bundesliga baseball in Germany or I'm in my dad's attic writing articles. 2016.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Long time ago. Giovanni Tejada, you in. Justine Gonzalez, in. L.A. Crash Dog, you in. Final refresh. If you want in, let's get in right now. I see Frank Mendez.
Got a couple super chats to get to.
Brian Folsom.
L.A. Crash Dog. What's up, fam? Just woke up. What did I miss? Well, it'll all be on the channel later, but we went through Mitch's big board going into this draft, his top 11 players, because the Raiders currently sit at the 11th pick. We looked at J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix.
Brian Folsom, 5.
As well. We also looked at the latest Harbaugh rumors, because that's kind of heating up a little bit after Michigan made the national title game. And then we also just talked about Russell Wilson. And then
Zach
we have another
Martin, Kenny Hoffman in.
We have another super chat from Shane Gamble. I love you, Chugs. Oh, love you too. But you have to stop smoking that stuff that grows in your front yard. AP will never be grooming a QB, and Jalen gave a shout out to AP. Jayden Daniels? Wait, Jalen Milroe?
Jayden Daniels.
He said Jalen. Jalen Milroe?
I'm like, Jayden Daniels did give a shout out, yes, to Antonio Pierce at his Heisman.
Shane, if he's your head coach, so I'm guessing, Shane, you don't want AP to be your head coach. Because that's probably the head coach's number one job of making sure the quarterback and him are aligned. Right? Like I might be smoking crack here, but I think those two are the most important people on your team. The head coach and the quarterback. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I don't disagree with that.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But if you're
idiot.
You saying this is saying you don't want AP to be your head coach. Because if you don't think he'll be grooming the next quarterback that comes into this organization, then I don't know what to tell you, man.
I mean, I will admit, if you do keep AP, like, I don't think you need him to be the next groomsman of your quarterback, but every head coach will have a say.
Or he better bring you the best offensive coordinator in the National Football League. Because AP doesn't know anything, not anything. That's a hyperbole. That's wrong. AP is not a master of the offensive side of the football. He played linebacker for 10 plus years in the NFL.
No, I mean,
everything he's done has been on the defensive side of the football.
You got to bring in.
He doesn't have any experience on the offensive side.
You have to bring in a very well-respected offensive mind to groom your quarterback.
And he was on crack.
I mean, I said this to Raiders. Like, somebody asked me yesterday, like, Michael Penix Jr., if the Raiders get him at QB, if the Raiders get Michael Penix Jr. at QB, the guy I'm trying to hire is the Washington Huskies OC.
ITK, I can't take anything you say seriously because you legitimately want to pay Flacco $15+ million.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I'm kind of with you. All right, right now, Jeremy, final refresh. Brandon Higgins, you in. So, final call here. Right now. Oh, man, I'm not good at math. I'm going to send it to you real quick. TV, here we go. 31 people are in. Right now, winner would get $155. Sounds like a good way to get the new year started. Sounds like a good way to get the new year started. What up, Fat Bearded Dad? I'm not keen on a trade up for a quarterback with our history of first-round QB picks, and I'm with Chugs. I love AP, but don't trust him with a quarterback. I hear you. I think that's kind of why you're just hoping that the next guy that you bring in at OC can run the offense. Like, that's what you're hoping. They can run the offense. It's exactly what I'm saying. AP will set Daniels up with the best offensive staff.
I mean, that's a huge hope.
Yeah, you got to hope it.
I mean.
All right, Nico says shuffle it, and we're going to go to the moon here. So this is not your typical race. I believe this one goes up.
I think up and then to the side.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy. Here we go. I'm going to refresh one last time. Nobody else is in. So, and 3, 2, 1. Let's get it going. Winner gets $155. And right now it's Buzz-O-Matic here to an interesting start. Zach Martin, Brian Folsom. Brian's the favorite. He's got 5 Rockets in this one. I see Robert Sis in a very interesting spot. Anthony Green's got 2 Rockets there, starting to fall back a little bit. Jamari Murray, I don't think I've ever seen a race that's just back and forth this much. Robert back here in the front. Angel in a very interesting spot. Frank Mendez, Buzz-O-Matic. I don't know here. I mean, Buzz must be drinking and driving or flying. Raiders, Sancho, Frank, Brian Folsom, Tejada Gonzalez, holy Toledo. This one is absolutely insane. I also just realized that Giovanni and Justine both have 1 Rocket. Stewart with the win. All right, Jeremy. I'm still going to send $155 to Stewart, but I am going to send the money back to Giovanni and Justine because I accidentally combined their 2 names. So that's on me. So Justine, since you didn't get your own, I'm going to send you your money back. I'm just going to say my bad. I was going to say that one name is redunculously long. Justine.
Stewart.
Send it back. And then.
Stewart. Say you're sorry.
Wow, man, what is that from? Danger Zone. I can literally hear it.
No, it's from Mad TV.
Well, he'd be like, I'm in my danger zone. Like, he used to say
Yes.
something like that.
I'm in my happy place.
Yeah, that's what
Stewart.
My bad.
Stewart. Shane, that's exactly what I'm saying. AP will set Daniels up with the best offensive staff. I mean, and if he's able to do that, then yes. But I mean, I don't know who he can bring in right now to necessarily give me that faith.
Who was the winner? Stewart?
Stewart.
Stewart actually had 2 wins. So, Stewart, congratulations to you. Congrats, Rocket Man. Rocket Man!
We see Graf in the chat right now. He says, salute. Graf, what do you think? Who do you think should be the next quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders?
That was Stewart's first time racing. Well, second time, actually. They raced the other day. Congratulations, Stewart. Stewart, can you please confirm down below that you just received $155?
I saw Jeffrey Kreischer say, but Chugs, what about Houston with DeMeco Ryans and C.J. Stroud? The thing is, he brought his guy with him from San Francisco, who was the run game coordinator, Bobby Slowick, who I don't think he's going to get a head coaching job, but he's got a little bit of buzz throughout the year for what he's done with Houston's offense, even though I don't think they run the ball nearly enough. What he's been able to do with C.J. Stroud has been wonderful. And if you can get a great offensive coordinator, I agree that drafting a quarterback is a good idea. But I still think you gotta show me who you're gonna bring in at OC before you draft the quarterback. You can't be like, oh, let's draft a quarterback and then I'm gonna go get an OC. You gotta say, hey, we're gonna get this guy. He's gonna turn around the Raiders' offense.
Mm-hmm. Stewart said, receive the money. You the man. My son Easton is your biggest fan.
Oh wow! How much does he weigh?
Is that? Can you ask that question? I don't even know.
Well, he's the biggest one. I mean.
Oh, he's the biggest fan.
Yeah.
What mode do you think he's on right now? Oscillate or just stand still?
He's the biggest fan.
I gotcha. Well, I appreciate that. So, Stuart, I think since you won some money, go get our biggest fan maybe an ice cream cone. That's what my grandpa used to always say. He'd be like, he always did this from the moment I grew up. It was like, he'd hand you like $5. He'd say, go get yourself an ice cream cone. And as I got older, I'd cut his lawn, and he'd hand me like a 20. He'd be like, go get yourself an ice cream cone.
Go get some ice cream.
I'm like, how much do you think ice cream is?
Some pralines and cream.
All right, fam. I got to get on out of here. I appreciate everyone for tuning in to the Raiders Report. A lot of conversations. It's going to be a hell of an offseason. I can't wait to see everything go down, and I wouldn't want to go anywhere else. I wouldn't rather spend my time anywhere else than with the nation here with Jeremy Chuggs. Appreciate
Even
each
in Fiji?
and everyone. Fiji. The water's good. Fiji sounds fun. I will take a vacation here in a little bit. After the Super Bowl, I am going to a place. It's going to be a good time. All right, you ready to get out of here?
I'm ready.
He's ready to get out of here. Next time you're going to see Jeremy Chuggs and I, it's going to be Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, live here on the Raiders Show. The only way we'll be live tomorrow, not Chuggs, he's actually off, I'll work tomorrow, is if there is some breaking news. So if breaking news happens, make sure you're subscribed. If not, we'll see you Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Have a good night. All right, I'll take the elevator. No?